Chapter 1482. What's so difficult about this? That Wang Xiaodong's mother has been suffering from chest pain for a long time. I told him my identity and told him that I'm familiar with Sun Daozhong and he can treat his mother's illness. Then I told him that shopkeeper Jean broke the rules by lending money and is currently being investigated by the imperial court. If he cooperates with us, he will be fine and can even get Sun Daozhong to treat his mother's illness. If he insists on following shopkeeper Jean to the end, then he will go to jail with shopkeeper Jean. In the back hall of the Lantian County Yamen, Cheng Chumo smiled proudly when he heard Li Ku's question. Then he briefly explained the cause and effect of the incident. Hearing this, Li Ku couldn't help but praise. Cho Ox, you moved him with emotion, reason, and even offered him benefits. Not bad, not bad. With this, that Wang Xiaodong should be on our side, and we will have enough time to gather more evidence. If you ask me, what evidence do we need to gather? Let's just capture Jin Wanfu and Zhang Xiongfei and interrogate them. They will definitely confess. Cheng Chumo curled his lips and said disdainfully, Absolutely not. Li Ku shook his head. We left the capital this time to exterminate the locusts. My imperial father did not give us the right to arrest people without permission. Even if we find out that Jin Wanfu broke the rules by lending money to Zhang Xiongfei, who wanted to hoard food and inflate the price of food, we still need to borrow the power of Xinfeng County Yamen. Let's wait for a while and ask for Yamacho's opinion. Cheng Chumo shrugged his shoulders indifferently and said, All right, it's up to you. Oh, someone is coming. Towards the end, Cheng Chumo's expression changed slightly because he heard footsteps coming from outside. Hearing this, Li Ku sat down and his expression returned to normal. Your Highness, the food and soup are all prepared. Do you want to send it over to Marquis Yong and the children now? Wang Dejing walked in and saw that there was another Cheng Chumo in the room. He was stunned for a moment before he cupped his hands and reported to Li Ku. Li Ku nodded and said, Send it over now. County Magistrate Wang, take the Yamen runners and follow me to deliver food outside the city. Wang Dejing bowed and said, This official obeys. Not long after, 5 ox carts drove out of the Xinfeng County Yamen. Each cart carried a large wooden bucket filled with food prepared by County Magistrate Wang. Li Ku led County Magistrate Wang and a dozen Yamen runners straight to the South City Gate. At this moment, the atmosphere in the city was completely different from when Li Ku and the others had first arrived. The news of the Sky Pheasant Brigade coming to Xinfeng City to exterminate the locusts had already spread. After the citizens heard the news, they immediately rejoiced. The oppressive atmosphere caused by the locusts suddenly disappeared without a trace. Have you heard? The Marquis of Yong and has brought the Sky Rooster Brigade to our Xinfeng County to exterminate the locusts. Really? How could it be fake? Go to the farmland outside the city and take a look. There are countless flocks of chickens brought over by the Marquis of Yong and everywhere. Good boy. That's great. Our Xinfeng City's crops can be saved. I heard that the Sky Pheasant Brigade used less than 2 days to exterminate all the locusts in Lantian City. Doesn't that mean that the locusts in our Xinfeng City will also be exterminated in 2 days? No. It should be even faster. I just heard a kid from the Han family village say that the Sky Pheasant Brigade brought a total of 310,000 chickens. It's more than double the previous number. That means that the locusts in our county will be exterminated today. That's great. The price of food in the city has risen these past 2 days. I thought that a food shortage was coming. Let's see how those unscrupulous grain merchants in the city will continue to raise the price of food. That's right. Sigh. Let's not talk about it anymore. I still have a dozen chickens at home. I'll go back and chase them out of the city to help the Marquis of Yong, and in the rest, exterminate the locusts. I have 30 chickens at home. I'll go and chase them out too. Although the citizens were overjoyed, there were some who were upset. What? The Marquis of Yong, and brought the Sky Pheasant Brigade to Lantian City? And the size of the Sky Pheasant Brigade has doubled from before? West of the city, in the back hall of Zhang Ji Grain Store. After listening to the servant's report, Zhang Xiongfei's old face suddenly became extremely gloomy. He slammed the table heavily and stood up. Yes, master. Now that the news has spread in the county, should we still go to Chang'an City to buy food? The servant said carefully with a bitter face. By my ass. Zhang Xiongfei's face darkened. The locust plague is about to be exterminated. Buy so much food to feed the rats. Get out. Get out. Yes, master. Seeing that Zhang Xiongfei was angry, the servant hurriedly scrambled out of the room. 300,000 chickens. That means that the Sky Pheasant Brigade will be able to exterminate all the locusts in Xinfeng County in less than a day. In some small counties, they can even clear 2 counties in a day. Even if there are hundreds of affected counties, the Sky Pheasant Brigade will be able to clear at least 20 of them in half a month. There will definitely be no more locust plague near Chang'an City. If we want to sell our food at a high price, we can only go to other places. That's too much of a loss. Inside the room, Zhang Xiongfei muttered to himself with a gloomy face. After a moment, he suddenly remembered the 2 girls that he had given to Jin Wanfu in the morning. He slapped his thigh and said angrily, "It's over, it's over." This old man had just borrowed 6,000 strings of cash from the Yanhuang Bank at double interest. I thought that I could use this money to make a huge profit. Now, does this count as losing the wife and losing the army? Sigh, my 2 delightful beauties. What a pity, what a pity. Saying that, Zhang Xiongfei hammered his chest with a face full of heartache. He did not know that there was an even bigger problem waiting for him. This official greets Marquis Yong'an for Marquis to bring the Sky Pheasant Brigade to exterminate the locusts in Xinfeng County. This official and the 50,000 people in the county are extremely grateful to Marquis. In a village outside of Xinfeng County, after Li Ku and his group found the main army, they hurriedly distributed food to the children. Wang Dejing came before Li Zishuan and bowed sincerely. Li Zishuan nodded expressionlessly and said, "This marquis brought the Sky Pheasant Brigade to exterminate the locusts. Firstly, it was because of the Emperor's orders. Secondly, it was because I could not bear to see the common people being poisoned by the locusts. However, this marquis heard that the price of grain in Xinfeng County has recently reached 5 copper coins per dan. County Magistrate Wang, can you explain this?" Saying that, he stared at Wang Dezheng with a burning gaze. Clearly, Li Ku had already told him everything that they had found in Xinfeng County. County Magistrate Wang's face was instantly covered in a few drops of sweat. It was unknown whether it was because the weather was too hot or because he was too nervous. He hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "This official did not manage the county well and caused the appearance of profiteers who took advantage of the locusts to raise the price of grain. This official has let down the imperial court and the emperor. After returning to the city, this official will write a letter of apology to the imperial court." Li Zishuan coldly said, "As the county magistrate of Xinfeng County, the price of grain in the county has skyrocketed. Of course, you cannot escape the crime of negligence. However, the most important thing right now is to find out which grain merchants took advantage of the locusts to raise the price of grain. The imperial court has repeatedly ordered all the counties to stabilize the price of grain. Xinfeng County is less than 100 li away from Chang'an. However, on the 3rd day of the locust plague, the price of grain had already risen. If this marquis had come a little later, would the price of grain have become 10 copper coins per dan, or even 100 copper coins per dan?" County Magistrate Wang cupped his hands and said, "Marquis is right. This official will return to the city to investigate the merchants who raised the price of grain." Wait. County Magistrate Wang turned to leave. However, Li Zishuan stopped him and said meaningfully, "It's not scary for grain merchants to raise the price of grain. What's scary is that officials and merchants collude with each other to raise the price of grain. Therefore, there's no need for you to investigate this matter. This marquis does not have the authority nor the time to investigate. Before the sky turns dark today, there will be officials from the Ministry of Personnel coming to investigate this matter. I hope that County Magistrate Wang can cooperate with them." According to Li Ku and Cheng Chumo's information, Li Zixuan felt that there was something wrong with this Wang Dishing. There was a need to investigate this matter. However, Li Zixuan was right. They only went to the counties to eliminate the locusts. Lier did not give them the authority to investigate the officials and merchants in the counties. Even if they had the authority, Li Zixuan did not have the time to waste here. Therefore, he planned to send this matter back to Lantian County via telegram and let Li Tai report it to Lier. When Wang Dajing heard this, his face instantly turned pale. He hurriedly said, "Marquis, please forgive me. This official has been busy with the disaster relief and neglected the soaring price of grain in the city. This official is guilty of negligence." Yes, it's Zhang Xiongfei. This time, he was the one who led the charge to raise the price of grain. This official's wife is his sister, so he has nothing to fear. However, this official dares to swear to the heavens that this official did not receive a single copper coin from Zhang Xiongfei. This lowly official has been wrongly accused. I hope that Marquis will investigate this matter properly. When Li Zixuan heard this, he nodded thoughtfully and said, "Whether or not you receive any benefits is not up to you nor this Marquis to say. The officials from the Ministry of Personnel will investigate this matter thoroughly. However, since you are willing to tell this Marquis all this, you are quite honest. This Marquis will pass on your words to the Imperial Court. As for whether you are guilty or not, that will be up to the Emperor to decide." Wang Dejing cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Marquis." At this moment, Li Ke quickly walked over and said, "Yamacho, there are many villagers over there, saying that they want to see you." Li Zixuan raised his eyebrows and asked, "See me? What do they want to see me for?" Li Ke smiled and said, "Some of them are here to deliver food, some are here to thank you in person, and some are here to deliver chickens." Deliver chickens? Li Zixuan could understand delivering food and thanking him in person, but the delivery of chickens made him unable to react. "Oh, what Ke means is that the villagers want to send their chickens to the Sky Chicken Brigade to help catch locusts. When we are done with them, we will return them to them." Seeing Li Zixuan's puzzled expression, Li Ke quickly explained, "Oh, there is such a thing? Let's go take a look." When Li Zixuan heard this, he was very surprised. Although there were 90,000 chickens in the Sky Chicken Brigade that came from the villagers of Lantian County, Xinfeng County was not Lantian County. The villagers here did not trust him as much as the villagers of Lantian County. Now that someone was willing to lend their chickens, it really surprised him. The two of them walked towards the villagers not far away. County Magistrate Wang thought for a moment and followed them. "Marquis is here. This is the Marquis of Yong'an. So young. No wonder he is the son of a deity. He is so handsome. If it was not for the Marquis of Yong'an, my crops would have been ruined by the locusts. I want to kowtow to the Marquis of Yong'an." When they saw Li Zixuan walking towards them, the villagers immediately became excited. "Greetings, Marquis." When Li Zixuan was only 4 or 5 steps away from them, the villagers all bowed and greeted him. Li Zixuan took a look. Good heavens, there were over 1,000 people. It was currently noon, and these people most likely did not even have lunch before coming over to deliver food, chickens, and express their gratitude. He never thought that he would be so popular in Xinfeng County, and for a moment, he was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. "Don't be so courteous. Please rise." Li Zixuan hurriedly raised his hands and said in a clear voice, "Marquis, you brought these children to help us exterminate the locusts, and we are extremely grateful. We just want to use some food to reward these children for their hard work. We hope that Marquis will not reject us." At this moment, a white-haired old man carrying a food basket stood out and said sincerely to Li Zixuan. As soon as he said that, the rest of the villagers immediately shouted excitedly, "That's right, Marquis, this is the chicken stewed by my wife. I hope it can nourish the children's bodies. We also stewed eggs. Marquis saved my crops, which means he saved my family of 7. This old man will kowtow to Marquis. I hope that Marquis will be safe and prosperous for the rest of his life. I will also kowtow to Marquis. Thank you, Marquis, for saving my family's 35 mu of crops. Marquis, I have 30 chickens at home. Do you think we can join the Sky Chicken Brigade to exterminate the locusts?" Marquis, I have 50 chickens at home, and I'm willing to lend them to you. It doesn't matter if we lose them. Please, Marquis, don't reject us. The villagers were all talking at once, and soon there was a crowd of villagers kneeling in front of Lisa Schwan. Among them, there were children of 7 or 8 years old, middle-aged people in their 30s and 40s, and even old people in their 60s and 70s. They were all people who had been in danger during the locust plague, and today they were saved by Lisa Schwan. No one could understand the joy and gratitude in their hearts. At this moment, they were willing to do anything for Lisa Schwan. Lisa Schwan didn't like people kneeling to him. When the first old man was about to kneel to him, he had already reached out to stop him. However, he could only stop one person, but he couldn't stop hundreds and thousands of villagers. Seeing that more and more people were kneeling to him, and the scene was getting noisier and noisier, Lisa Schwan hurriedly circulated his vital energy and shouted, "Villagers, listen to me." His loud and clear voice entered everyone's ears, and the excited villagers immediately quieted down. Lisa Schwan continued, "Villagers, please get up first. This kid has just turned 20 years old. Many of you can be considered my elders. How can this kid bear such a big gift from all of you? You are not repaying me. You are shortening my lifespan. So, villagers, please get up quickly. Let's stand up and talk slowly." Hearing this, the villagers who were kneeling on the ground couldn't help but look at each other. After a while, they all stood up. Seeing this, Lisa Schwan couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. To prevent the villagers from kneeling again, he quickly struck while the iron was hot and said, "Villagers, I'm very grateful that you sent food to the children of Lantian County. However, as you can see, the children already have food. To avoid wasting it, I would like to ask the villagers to bring back the food you brought." How can we do that?" "That's right. The children have already eaten. They can eat more." The moment Lisa Schwan finished speaking, the villagers were instantly dissatisfied. Seeing this, Lisa Schwan directly took a loudspeaker from Old Who beside him and used his jinshi to suppress the voices of the common people. He only heard him say loudly, "This is the first time I've heard of this." He shouted, "I have extra food prepared. Villagers, please bring back the food you brought. However, you can keep the chickens you brought. Please mark the drumsticks of your chickens and register them with County Magistrate Wong. After that, they will be incorporated into the Sky Chicken Brigade. This marquee will take them to other provinces and counties to exterminate the locusts. After the locust plague is quelled, this marquee will definitely return all the chickens that I borrowed from you. If any of them are lost, this marquee will pay double. On behalf of the people of other counties, I thank all of you for your help." Chapter 1483. According to Lisa Schwan's original plan, he only wanted to bring these 300,000 chickens to sweep through the various provinces and counties. However, since the people of Xinfeng County were willing to lend their chickens to him, there was no reason for him to reject them. There were more than 8,000 households in Xinfeng County. If each household lent 30 to 40 chickens, they would be able to gather more than 20,000 chickens. This was a significant increase in the overall scale of the Sky Pheasant Brigade. On the other hand, now that the children of the Han Village and Plum Village had loudspeakers, the size of the flock they could control was much larger than before. The Sky Pheasant Brigade could completely eat the 20,000 chickens in Xinfeng County. If the people of other provinces and counties were willing to lend their chickens, Lisa Schwan would still dare to continue accepting them. After appeasing the people, Lisa Schwan looked at Wang Dezheng and instructed in a deep voice, "County Magistrate Wang, I'll leave the matter of registering the people to you. This is also a chance for you to atone for your mistakes. Now, immediately send the Yamen runners to inform the entire county that those who are willing to lend their chickens to me should register as soon as possible." Wang Dezheng cupped his hands solemnly and said, "Rest assured, Marquis, I'll send the Yamen runners to inform the people of the various villages and gather all the officials in the county government to register the people. It's best if the people register before the hour of the afternoon. After that, we might have to head to Wainan County to exterminate the locusts." Li Zishuan nodded and said, Marquis is leaving Xinfeng County with the Sky Pheasant Brigade today. Wang Dejing was shocked when he heard this. He thought that Li Zishuan's Sky Pheasant Brigade was going to stay the night in Xinfeng County. Li Zishuan nodded and said, based on the speed of this morning, all the locusts in Xinfeng County will definitely be exterminated before the hour of the afternoon. Now that the locust plague is everywhere, the people are living in an abyss of suffering. Time waits for no one. If the Sky Pheasant Brigade can head to the next place as soon as possible, the people there will suffer less losses. Hearing this, Wang Dajing couldn't help but feel deep veneration. He bowed deeply to Li Zishuan and said, Marquis is devoted to the country and loves the people as if they were your own children. Your noble character and unquestionable integrity has earned my admiration and shame. No matter how the imperial court deals with me, even if I can only be a small official in the future, I will remember Marquis' admonition today and be a good official who benefits the people. Seeing Wang Dajing's sincere face, Li Zishuan's impression of him changed greatly. Even if County Magistrate Wang couldn't absolve himself from the blame for the soaring grain prices, it was undeniable that County Magistrate Wang was a magnanimous person. Generally speaking, although Wang Dejing had flaws and neglected his duties as an official, he wasn't so bad that he couldn't be saved. He could still be saved. County Magistrate Wang, last year when the Chui clan was exterminated, I once said to His Majesty, the ruler is a boat. The commoners are water. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. The Chui clan thought that the people were weak and powerless, so they wantonly oppressed the people and harmed the servants. They had no respect for the people, and in the end, they died in the sea of people. In fact, the same principle applies to an official. County Magistrate Wang, if you don't care about the people and don't care about the people's livelihood, then one day when the people can't live anymore, that's when you, as an official, can no longer be an official. You must know that when an ordinary man is angry, blood will splash 5 steps away. There is no need for Li Zishuan to say these words. It was mainly because Wang Dajing could still be saved that he said a few more words. What if because of his words, there was another good official in this world? Wang Dajing obviously understood this principle. Hearing this, he bowed to Li Zishuan gratefully and said, Thank you, Marquis, for your admonition. I will remember it for the rest of my life. Yes, go and do your work. Li Zishuan waved his hand and said, Beep, 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 beep. Lantian County, Strange Interest Pavilion's new workshop. Accompanied by the DDD sound of the telegraph, Li Tai quickly came to the desk and took a pen to record the code. After about a quarter of an hour, the telegraph finally stopped ringing. Li Tai shook his sore wrist and began to translate the telegram. Qingke, there are palace people outside looking for you. Quickly go out and see. At this time, Meng Wenhao walked into the room and said to Li Tai, who was in front of the desk. Since Li Tai was the deputy chief designer of the second and third trump card projects of Yanwang College, he had a special office in this courtyard. It was convenient for him to receive and send telegrams. No one outside the project was allowed to enter this courtyard where the trump card project was carried out. Even the eunuchs from the palace were no exception. People from the palace? Why are they looking for me? Li Tai had just finished translating the telegram and asked curiously. Meng Wenhao shook his head and said, I don't know about this. The little eunuch didn't say. Qingke, you should go out and see. Okay, I will take a look. Li Tai thought for a while, then took out a page and handed it to Meng Wenhao, saying, Wenhao, this is a telegram from Yamacho. It's about publishing a notice in tomorrow's Tang Daily. Take it and give it to Mr. Ma Zhou. Okay. I'll go now. Meng Wenhao nodded, and the two of them went out together. Your Highness, His Majesty summons you to the palace. The little eunuch outside the courtyard was a little angry because he was rejected, but when he saw Li Tai come out, he quickly put on a smile and greeted him. Father summons me to the palace? What's the matter? I'm very busy here, Li Tai said reluctantly. The 2 trump card projects had entered the critical stage, and he was indeed very busy now. The little eunuch choked when he heard this. He thought to himself, What's wrong with Prince Wei that he doesn't even want to respond to His Majesty's summons? If the other party was a normal official, the little eunuch would have left in a huff. However, the other party was Li Tai, the Prince of Wei, who was greatly favored by the second emperor. The little eunuch did not dare to be arrogant or rash. He smiled and said, "Your Highness, His Majesty only said that he summoned you back to the palace for an important matter, but he didn't tell us what it was. Your Highness, do you want to go back to the palace to take a look?" Li Tai thought for a while, then nodded and said, "Okay, I also have something to talk to His Majesty about." The little eunuch heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Your Highness, this way, please. The carriage has been prepared for you." "What carriage? Don't you know that my time is precious? Ride back to Chang'an." Li Tai glared at the little eunuch and said angrily. The little eunuch was stunned at first, then quickly bowed and said, "Yes, yes, yes. I will go and prepare a horse for your Highness." Speaking of which, Li Tai used to ride a carriage when he went out. After all, riding a carriage was much more comfortable than riding a horse. Today's abnormal behavior really made the little eunuch unable to understand. "Your son pays his respects to His Majesty." Sweet Du Hall. After being notified by the chamberlain, Li Tai walked in and bowed to Li Er, who was reading memorials. You may dispense with the formalities." Li Er put down the memorials and raised his head to look at Li Tai. After a while, he frowned and said, "You've lost weight. Chinke, why haven't you returned to the palace to pay your respects to me and your mother for so long? Even if you have classes on weekdays, you should still have time to return to Chang and during the weekends at Yanwang College. Your mother has already talked about you in front of me more than once." When Li Tai heard this, he said with some guilt, "Your son is unfilial and has caused His Majesty and mother to worry. In the future, when your son has time, I will definitely return to the palace to pay my respects to His Majesty and mother." Li Er narrowed his eyes and said, "What? For what you're saying, you haven't had time recently. Is there something important that you have to deal with?" Li Tai was a little dumbfounded. According to the rules of the Academy, the second and third trump card projects were classified as top secret projects. No one involved could reveal it to outsiders, not even their own family members. However, the person in front of him was not only his family member, but also the ruler of the empire. This made Li Tai feel awkward for a moment. Should he say it or not? What kind of thing made you hide it from me?" Li Er's face suddenly became gloomy, and there was a trace of coldness in his voice. Although he already knew what Li Tai was busy with recently, seeing that his son even hid it from him as his father made him feel a little angry in his heart. Li Tai felt a chill down his spine and quickly said, "No, father, your son doesn't dare. Yamacho started the second and third trump card projects at the Academy a few days ago. Your son has been busy with this matter recently." "Oh, the second and third trump card projects? What is it for?" Li Er's eyes flashed as he straightened his body and asked. He knew that the first trump card project of the Academy was the Ba River Hydroelectric Power Station project. As for the second and third trump card projects, he still knew nothing. The Academy's confidentiality work was really good. Li Tai had already decided to tell Li Er about the trump card project. At this moment, he had no scruples, so he continued, "Father, the second trump card project of the Academy aims to improve the current telegraph machine. On one hand, it will increase the transmission power of the telegraph machine. On the other hand, it will enhance the telegraph machine's signal recognition ability and anti-interference ability. On the other hand, it will build telegraph relay stations in key states and counties for electromagnetic wave transmission and reception relays. Finally, it will increase the effective communication range of the telegraph machine to more than 1,000 miles, or even further. 1,000 miles. When Li Er heard this, he was completely shocked. Previously, Li Zixuan had told him that there was still a lot of room for improvement in the telegraph machine. He was still a little skeptical, but now that the second trump card project had been set up to increase the communication range of the telegraph machine to more than 1,000 miles, and even the improvement plan had been formulated, he had no choice but to believe it. "Chinke, tell me, Is it feasible to increase the communication range of the telegraph machine to more than 1,000 miles? After a moment of shock, Li Er came back to his senses and asked eagerly. Li Tai cupped his hands and said, "Father, the plan of this trump card project has been discussed several times by more than 10 teachers in the academy. We all think that 1,000 miles communication range is absolutely feasible. Moreover, if the number of relay stations is enough, a few thousand miles communication range is not a problem." Good, 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 good. When Lier heard this, he was instantly delighted, but then he felt that there was something wrong with Li Tai's words. We all think. Chinke, what are your responsibilities in this project? When he heard Lier ask this, Li Tai scratched his head a little embarrassedly. That was the embarrassment of a child who had achieved good results in front of his parents, but was afraid of showing too much and making himself appear immodest. Father, your son is the deputy chief designer of the second and third trump card projects, and Mr. Mo Huai is the chief designer. Li Er's eyes widened. Although he had always been calm in the face of change, when he heard that his son had become the deputy chief designer of the trump card project, he could not hide his shock because he knew that the teachers in Yanhuan College were all capable people. How rare was it that Li Tai, as a student, could stand out from the crowd and become the deputy chief designer. Haha, you are indeed worthy of being my son. Chinke, good job. After the shock, Lier could not help but laugh out loud. Last year, Chinke, when you wanted to enter Li Zixuan's tutelage and study at Yanhuan College, I was still a little hesitant because you had always been studying Confucianism. I was worried that the proud and arrogant you would not be able to adapt to engineering in Yanhuan College. But I did not expect that in less than a year, Chinke, your achievements in engineering would reach such a level. Your father is very pleased. Li Tai was overjoyed in his heart, but he said modestly, "Father, you flatter me. Compared to Yamacho, your son is still far behind." "Ha, take it slow. There is no rush." Li Er was delighted when he heard this, and then he asked, "Oh, right. What is the third trump card project?" Li Tai cupped his hands and replied, "Father, for the third trump card project, Yamacho wants to create new units of measurement, standards, and measuring instruments. In addition, Yamacho has also created new units of length to facilitate the precision production of the later stages of the workshop. Compared to improving the telegraph, these tasks are not difficult." Li Er nodded thoughtfully and said, "When will the second trump card project be completed?" Li Tai replied, "Within half a year. The deadline for these two trump card projects is half a year. Yamacho wants us to reach the target within half a year." "Half a year? Good. I will wait for you for half a year. Once you are done, I will reward everyone handsomely," Li Er said excitedly. Just think about it. If the telegraph was successfully improved and could achieve long-distance communication, then the Tang Empire's territory would expand by several times. He, Li Er, would also have the ability to control the country's affairs and military affairs. This was an achievement that even Qin Huang and Han Wu could not achieve. Li Tai suddenly thought of something and said, "Father, we have already made some initial improvements to the telegraph. It is estimated that the distance of communication can reach up to 400 to 500 miles. This time, when Yamacho went to another county to exterminate locusts, they brought along the telegraph that we have just improved. This time, we can test its maximum effective range." "Oh, right. Yamacho just sent back a telegram regarding Xinfeng County. Father, please take a look." With that, Li Tai took out a piece of paper from his sleeve and raised it above his head. Li Er's eyes flashed, and he quickly said, "Oh, let me take a look." Zhao Song quickly took it and passed it to Li Er. Chapter 1484. Bam! Xinfeng County is less than 100 miles away from Chong and City. However, on the third day of the locust plague, grain merchants started to raise the price of grain. The imperial court has repeatedly issued orders, but some people have turned a deaf ear to it. Oof. Do they really think that my butcher's knife won't cut off their heads? In the Sweet Dew Hall, after Lier finished reading the report, he slapped the dragon table and coldly said with an ashen face. The palace maids and eunuchs in the hall kept quiet out of fear when they saw Li Er's rage. Li Tai's face was dark, but he didn't say anything. Zhao Song, immediately send a decree to Zhang Sun Wuji and Lu Dui. Order the Ministry of Personnel and the Supreme Court to send officials to Xinfeng County to investigate the matter of grain merchants raising the price of grain. If there is no collusion between officials and merchants, then forget it. If there is, then don't let a single one of them off. No matter who is involved in this, find them all and punish them severely. The hall was silent for a moment before Li Er said with a dark face, "This old servant obeys." Zhao Song cupped his fists and prepared to leave. "Wait," Li Er interrupted. "Pass on the imperial decree, Xianling. Let the Secretariat send another official document to the various counties in Guangzhou. Strictly order the counties to stabilize the price of grain. If the price of grain soars, grain merchants, local county officials, and provincial governors will all be severely punished and will not be tolerated." "Understood." Zhao Song bowed. Seeing that Li Er didn't have any other orders, he cupped his fists and left the hall. Li Er turned his gaze to Li Tai. After some thought, he said, "Qingke, Yinhuang College's second and third trump card projects should be kept strictly confidential, right?" Li Tai's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. He cupped his fists and said, "Father, the reason why Yamacho wants us to keep it a secret is to prevent the college's core technology from being stolen by those with ill intentions toward Tang Dynasty." I didn't say that it was wrong, but if you're guarding against outsiders, don't tell me you are also guarding against me. Li Er's eyes turned cold as he interrupted Li Tai's words. "If I hadn't interrogated you today, I wouldn't have known what your second and third trump card projects are for. Li Zishuan may be thinking for the benefit of the Tang Empire, but don't forget that I am the master of this country. As monarchs, they didn't like the feeling of being deceived because it made them feel that the matter was beyond their control. Even though Li Er was a wise monarch, he was no exception when it came to this. Even though it was currently midsummer, Li Tai still felt a trace of coldness in the sweet nectar hall. At this time, he recalled that his imperial father was never a soft-hearted and mediocre ruler. Instead, he was a decisive person who could conquer the world and kill his brother and imprison his father. Imperial father, this son is terrified. This son has never thought of hiding this matter from you. It's just that the college has been busy recently, and this son has no time to worry about this. This son didn't mean to deceive imperial father. I believe that Yamacho is the same. Recently, there's been a locust plague in the Guangzhou area. Yamacho was busy with disaster relief and didn't report this to imperial father. Furthermore, this son has heard from Yamacho that Yamacho has improved the telegraph system. He has already mentioned it to you before, so this son didn't rush to report it to you. Imperial father, please don't hold a grudge against Yamacho because of this." Little Fatty's mind spun quickly as he explained. He knew that if he didn't explain this matter clearly to Li Zishuan today, not only would he be unlucky, but Li Zishuan might also be unlucky. Since ancient times, when there was a grudge between a ruler and his subjects, the unlucky ones were usually the ministers. Hearing this, Li Er's expression softened. After a long silence, he finally said, "Li Zishuan has indeed mentioned the improvement of the telegraph system to me before. I let him do it freely. I will give him the manpower and resources he needs. This time, the locust plague happened in the Guangzhou area, so I can't blame you. Forget it. Forget it. I'm not a narrow-minded person, so I won't blame you for this matter. However, if something similar happens again next time, don't lie to imperial father." Li Tai heaved a huge sigh of relief. When Li Er was silent just now, he had already prepared himself to be punished. At this moment, his hanging heart finally settled down. "Many thanks, imperial father. Imperial father is broad-minded and will definitely become a benevolent ruler like Qin Huang and Han Wu." Li Er looked at Li Tai with a smile that wasn't a smile and said, "Ah, Qingke, you also know how to flatter imperial father now. However, imperial father couldn't tell that you are actually so protective of Li Zishuan now." He was naturally talking about how Li Tai pleaded for Li Zishuan when he was angry just now. Li Tai was stunned. Not long ago, he and Li Zishuan were sworn enemies. Moreover, he had always been looking for trouble with Li Zishuan. But now, not only had he become Li Zishuan's student, he was even willing to take the risk of being punished by his imperial father to plead for Li Zishuan. How did things become like this? Scenes of the past flashed through Li Tai's mind. After a long time, Li Tai cupped his hands towards Li Er and said with a serious face, "Imperial Father, not only is Yamacho knowledgeable, he is also a person worthy of respect. This son feels that the Tang Empire needs someone like Yamacho." Seeing his beloved son praising another person in front of him, Li Er felt a little jealous. However, for the sake of his face, he was embarrassed to show it. Moreover, Li Tai's words were generally correct. Thus, he waved his hand dispiritedly and said, "Chinke, you have grown up. Go and pay respects to your imperial mother. Then go and do what you want to do." "Yes, Imperial Father." Li Tai cupped his hands and was about to leave when he suddenly turned around and said, "Imperial Father, this son will not be by your side. Please take care of your dragon body." Li Er's heart warmed as he chuckled and said, "Imperial Father knows. Go, go." Li Tai nodded and turned to leave. The next day, on the front page of the Tang Daily, there was an eye-catching piece of news. Whose fault is it for the soaring grain prices? 108 official letters issued by the Secretariat, strictly ordering the affected counties to stabilize the grain prices. This piece of news described how Zhang Xiongfei of Xinfeng County had hoarded grain and inflated the grain prices. Furthermore, just yesterday evening, Zhang Xiongfei had already been detained by the Xinfeng County Yamen. Li Er had personally ordered that he would be executed 3 days later. One must know that ever since the Five Barbarians' Rebellion, the population of the Central Plains had sharply decreased. After experiencing the chaos at the end of the Sui Dynasty, the Tang Empire had always pursued a policy of recuperation. Under such circumstances, the local yamen rarely sentenced criminals to death. Even if they did, they had to report it to the higher levels and obtain the emperor's personal approval before the death penalty could be carried out. In the Jingguan Dynasty, even if Li Er wanted to sentence someone to death, he had to obtain the approval of the court officials. It was recorded in the history books that when Taizong ascended the throne, he discussed with the court officials how to enforce justice. According to Wang Gui's suggestion, a righteous, kind, and impartial judge person would be appointed as a judge. After Zhang Yonggu was killed, Taizong immediately remembered that this young judge was a loyal follower of his cautious punishment policy and was dedicated to reversing the previous generation's practice of excessive punishment. He played chess with prisoners and exempted mentally ill people from punishment. These were all implementing the cautious punishment policy. When he was killed, he did not have the chance to defend himself. This was truly regrettable. Thus, Taizong ordered that in the future, even if the emperor ordered the death penalty to be immediately executed, there had to be 3 overturned memorials. Only after the overturned memorials could the death penalty be carried out. Not long after, he ordered that the 3 overturned memorials were changed to 5 overturned memorials in the capital, 3 overturned memorials outside the capital, and 1 overturned memorial for an evil traitor or a servant who killed his master. Of these, 5 overturned memorials were to be overturned once 2 days before the execution, once a day before the execution, and 3 overturned memorials on the day of the execution. On the day of the execution, there was to be no alcohol or meat, and all entertainment activities were to be stopped. According to the law, death can be pardoned, cases were to be brought up in a timely manner. Such a complicated system of overturning the death penalty greatly reduced the number of people sentenced to death in the Jingguan Dynasty. According to historical records, in the 3rd year of the Jingguan Dynasty, there were only 29 people sentenced to death in the country. Of course, this was because Li Er had no choice but to do so to preserve the limited labor force in the country. However, the social order of the Jingguan Dynasty did not become chaotic because of this. On the contrary, the social order of the Jingguan Dynasty was so good that it was unbelievable. East to the sea, south to the 5 ridges of the 5 ridges of the south, the door is not closed. This time, Lier directly sentenced Zhang Xiongfei to death to make an example out of him. He wanted to be a warning to the other provinces and counties in the Guangzhou region. He wanted the grain merchants to think of Zhang Xiongfei's fate before they raised the price of grain. Xinfeng County's grain price actually rose to 5 won per dan a few days ago. These grain merchants are really heartless. Exactly. This Zhang Xiongfei was well executed. That's right. We should make an example out of him. Let those profiteers take advantage of the locust plague to raise the price of grain. After the citizens of Chang and city saw the headlines of the Tang Daily, they all cheered and applauded Zhang Xiongfei's tragic end. They were lucky to live under the emperor's rule. During this time, the price of food in Chang and city did not fluctuate. All the major grain stores were still selling the food at the original price. The people could buy as much as they wanted. It was no different from before. Chang and city is still better. The price of grain did not skyrocket. If you ask me, this should be the work of the Marquis of Yong and... Oh, why do you say so? The Marquis of Yong and led the Sky Pheasant Brigade to quickly eliminate the locusts in Lantian County. This greatly stabilized the people's hearts. Besides, the Yanhuang Chamber of Commerce also has some grain stores in Chang and city. They have plenty of grain. With them around, how would the other grain merchants dare to raise the price? That makes sense. Hey, look, Marquis Sky Pheasant Brigade actually eliminated the locusts in Xinfeng and Weinan counties in one day. What? Isn't that too fast? It's true. It's true. And Marquis even announced that he wants to borrow the chickens raised by the citizens of the affected counties. After the locusts are eliminated, they will be returned in full. If any are lost, they will be compensated twice the amount. Now the Sky Pheasant Brigade already has 350,000 chickens. Marquis wants to borrow the chickens raised by the citizens? That's great. I still have 30 chickens at home. I wonder where Marquis is now. Is it too late to send them over? But I don't know. I think Marquis' announcement should be for the counties waiting for the disaster relief to see, right? When the Sky Pheasant Brigade arrives, they will directly send their chickens over. That's possible, right? My brother-in-law is providing relief to Xianyang County. Marquis will definitely pass by Xianyang County in the next few days. I have to get someone to send a letter over. I must send all the chickens at home to Marquis. This is a meritorious deed. Even if they lose a few chickens, they won't have to ask Marquis for compensation. That's right. That's right. Marquis is running around with the children of Lantian County for the people affected by the disaster in Guangzhou. We have no reason to stand by and do nothing. If we can do something, we will feel at ease. That's right. I also have relatives in Xianyang County. I have to get them to prepare the chickens and wait for Marquis to come and lend them to Marquis. When the citizens saw Li Zishuan's chicken recruitment notice published in Tang Daily, they were all enthusiastic and wanted to send all the chickens at home to the Sky Pheasant Brigade. However, the citizens of Chang and city didn't know where Li Zishuan's Sky Pheasant Brigade was now. It was obviously unrealistic to send chickens over. Therefore, the quick-witted citizens thought of getting their relatives in other affected counties to prepare their chickens for the Sky Pheasant Brigade. In fact, these warm-hearted citizens of the capital didn't have to do this at all. The Tang Daily's speed of dissemination was much faster than their speed of sending letters. Since Li Zishuan founded the Tang Daily at the beginning of last year, it had been more than a year. The editorial department of the Tang Daily not only set up offices in various counties, but also established a complete communication network. Every morning before dawn, there would be a dozen fast horses running out of Lantian County with the latest issue of the Tang Daily. At this time, more than 20 counties around Chang and city basically saw the latest issue of the newspaper, just like the citizens of Chang and city. As for the counties further away, it would only take a few days for them to receive today's newspaper. Therefore, in the counties around Chang and city, there were already citizens outside the county government, asking when the Sky Pheasant Brigade would come to their counties. They had already prepared chickens. But how would the county magistrates know when Li Zishuan would go to their counties? But they couldn't ignore the surging public opinion, especially in the context of the imperial court ordering all the counties to seize the time to actively provide disaster relief. It was even more impossible for them to ignore the public opinion. Xinfeng County was a living example. The county magistrate was demoted, and the deputy was directly dismissed. Therefore, in the face of the surging public opinion, the county magistrates of each county hurriedly sent yamen runners to the county where Li Zishuan was located to ask about Li Zishuan's marching route. There were also some county magistrates who were farsighted. While they sent people to inquire about the route, they also helped the citizens register how many chickens they were willing to lend. They also instructed the citizens to mark the legs of their chickens in advance, and then drove them to the county government to be kept by the yamen runners. When the Sky Pheasant Brigade arrived, they would directly send them to Li Zishuan. As a result, the backyards of many county offices became bustling chicken farms, and the county magistrate, deputy county magistrate, and yamen runners were all turned into breeders. Chapter 1485. Mountain Elder Jin Wanfu has already been taken away by the Supreme Court. According to our investigation, he knew that Zhang Xiongfei was borrowing money to hoard food and drive up the price of food. However, he still chose to lend money because he accepted two beautiful women from Zhang Xiongfei. Those two women have already been dismissed. The 6,000 strings of cash that Jin Wanfu loaned to Zhang Xiongfei has also been recovered. I've sent someone to quickly send a letter back to the headquarters of a Yanhuang bank to transfer a gentleman who is both virtuous and skilled to Xinfeng County to be the manager of the bank. Li Ke came to Li Zishuan's side on the fields outside Liang County and cupped his hands. They spent the night in Weinan County after exterminating the locusts yesterday, and set off at dawn this morning to exterminate the locusts in Liang County. Along the way, they borrowed more than 20,000 chickens in Xinfeng County and more than 10,000 in Weinan County. After seeing the Tang Daily today, the people of Liang County had spontaneously started to send their chickens to the county government. It was estimated that Li Zishuan and the rest could absorb another 20,000 chickens after exterminating the locusts. This was the snowball effect. The Sky Chicken Brigade was like a snowball. Not only did they exterminate the locusts in the disaster-stricken counties of Guangzhou, but they also grew stronger as they absorbed the chickens sent by the people along the way. The more fertile the soil, the easier it is to breed corruption. The Yanhuang Bank manages countless silvers, and the manager of the bank is a lucrative job in the eyes of countless people. Today, we can punish one Jin Wanfu, but in the future, there will be hundreds and thousands of Jin Wanfu. Little Ku, how will you deal with that? Li Zishuan turned around and looked at Li Ku with a faint gaze. Li Ku heard this and was startled. Clearly, he agreed with the first half of Li Zishuan's words, but he had not thought about how to solve this problem. After a moment of silence, Li Ku cupped his hands and said, "Yamacho, please teach me." Li Zishuan sighed and clasped his hands behind his back. We can't always find a corrupt manager of a money house and punish him. And I don't have the time to do that. It's like His Majesty and the officials of the imperial court. His Majesty is usually busy, so how can he have the time to investigate whether the civil and military officials are corrupt? But will my great Tang allow corrupt officials to run rampant because of this? No, this was because the imperial court had an imperial censorate. There were dozens of imperial censors who had been meticulously carrying out their duties to supervise the officials. Therefore, I believe that the Yanhuang Bank also needs a self-monitoring department to monitor the corruption in the various banks. Only then will we be able to prevent people like Jin Wanfu from appearing. In fact, when the bank was first established, he had thought about this problem. However, the scale of the bank was limited to Cloud Mountain, so he was not worried about the problem of corruption. Later on, Yanhuang Bank received the approval of Li Heir and the other officials in the imperial court and was affiliated with the Ministry of Revenue. After completely becoming a national bank, it began a rapid expansion. Under the rapid expansion of anything, there would be many hidden dangers. Yanhuang Bank was the same. Jin Wanfu was just the tip of the iceberg. Li Zixuan believed that within the Yanhuang Bank in the various counties of Great Tang, there would definitely be many scum like Jin Wanfu, who used their power for personal gain and corruption. Catching one and dismissing another would obviously not solve the problem completely. The only way to solve the problem was to improve the current system and prevent such a phenomenon from happening again. That was the correct way to solve the problem. When Li Ke heard this, he suddenly understood and said, Yamacho is wise. After this operation to exterminate the locusts is over, I will return to Chang and to gather people and set up a monitoring department in the Yanhuang Bank. They will regularly check the accounts of the banks in the various counties, and from time to time, send monitoring officers to the local banks to investigate if there are any illegal activities by the managers of the local banks. Li Zixuan nodded and said, that would be best. Otherwise, if there are too many people like Jin Wanfu, not only will it cause a great loss to the bank's economy, but it will also cause the bank's reputation among the people to plummet. At this point, Li Zixuan's face flashed with a hint of anger. Colluding with grain merchants to drive up the price of grain. Fortunately, this matter was not blown out of proportion and was nipped in the bud. Otherwise, our Yanhuang Bank would be hated by the people. Little Ku immediately used Jin Wanfu's example as a model and issue an internal notice in the Yanhuang Bank. Let all the bank managers take note of this. Otherwise, they will end up like Jin Wanfu. Not only will their reputation be ruined, but they will also be imprisoned. The Yanhuang Bank was founded by Li Zixuan. Seeing someone destroy his hard work, of course he would be heartbroken and angry. Li Ke's expression turned serious as he cupped his hands and said, Yamacho, don't worry. I have already released the internal notice yesterday. The managers of the various banks should have received it in the next few days. Also, what should we name the internal supervision department of our bank? Li Zixuan pondered for a moment and said, the bank is involved in gold and silver. Let's call them the gold-robed guards. The gold-robed guards not only need clerical personnel who are good at investigating and analyzing accounts, but also military personnel who are good at arresting and fighting. This department must be well-versed in both the pen and the sword, because in the future, the scale of the Yanhuang Bank will be bigger and bigger. When Li Ke heard this, he opened his mouth wide in shock. Obviously, he didn't expect Li Zixuan to play with such a big game. Yamacho, this matter involves the military. I'm afraid we will need Father's permission to proceed. Li Zixuan nodded and said, that's natural. Yanhuang Bank is, at best, a financial institution. Of course, it does not have the authority to set up an armed force. However, it is precisely because the bank is a financial institution that it needs a strong military force to ensure its internal and external security. Therefore, I will leave this matter to you, Xiao Ku, to consult His Majesty. The future gold-robe guards will not only be able to ferret out the corrupt scum within the bank, but also protect the bank from external criminals. He definitely didn't set up the gold-robe guards for fun. The daily cash flow of the Yanhuang Bank was very impressive. Money could move people's hearts. Everyone liked money. The people inside the bank might think of embezzling money, while the criminals outside the bank might think of robbing the bank. If they didn't take precautions early, something bad would definitely happen one day. For example, modern banks not only had supervision banks like the CBRC, financial asset management companies, trust and investment companies, and other deposit-taking financial institutions, but also bank security guards to protect the safety of the bank. The Yanhuang Bank was similar to modern banks. Of course, it also needed a corresponding supervision and security department. When Li Ke heard this, he seriously pondered in his heart for a moment. Then, he cupped his hands and said, Yamacho's words are reasonable. When we return to Chang'an, Ke will personally report this matter to Father. Li Zixuan nodded and said, the most important thing now is to eliminate the locusts. The scale of the Sky Pheasant Brigade is getting bigger and bigger. Little Ku, You have to coordinate and arrange tasks for each team in advance to ensure that we eliminate the locusts faster and faster. Otherwise, wouldn't the chickens that the people lent us be in vain? For the Sky Pheasant Brigade, the increase in the number of chickens wasn't entirely a good thing. The expansion of the scale required the commander to have higher requirements. For example, previously, a team of 5,000 chickens was required to eliminate the locusts in 1,000 mu of fertile land in half a day. But now, the total number of chickens had increased, and each team would be allocated more chickens. If they still divided the tasks according to the previous speed, there would be a waste of resources. But if there were too many tasks, it would also affect the progress of the Sky Pheasant Brigade. The actual commander of the Sky Pheasant Brigade was Lisa Schwan. That was why Lisa Schwan said this. Lika cupped his hands and said solemnly, Yamacho, don't worry. I will definitely weigh all the factors and assign tasks to each team. That's the best. After we eliminate the locusts, we will make some preparations and go directly to the next county, Jingyang County. Let the county magistrate of Liang County send over the chickens that the people lent us. Yes, Yamacho. On the first day of the Sky Pheasant Brigade's expedition, they eliminated the locusts in 2 counties and the scale of the flock grew to 350,000. On the second day of the Sky Pheasant Brigade's expedition, they eliminated the locusts in 2.5 counties. The reason why it was 2.5 counties was because the locusts in the 3rd county were only half cleared when the sky turned dark. Lisa Schwan and his team had to stay there and wait until dawn to continue eliminating the locusts. On the 3rd day, the scale of the flock grew to 410,000. On the 3rd day of the Sky Pheasant Brigade's expedition, they eliminated the locusts in 3 counties and the scale of the flock grew to 470,000. At noon on the 4th day, after the Sky Pheasant Brigade had eliminated the locusts in Xianyang County, the Sky Pheasant Brigade, made up of 500,000 chickens, split into 2 groups. 200,000 chickens were led by Lisa Schwan and set off to the west. The other 300,000 chickens were led by Li Ku and Chung Chumo and set off to the east. They followed the Yellow River and eliminated the locusts in the disaster-stricken counties along the way. As the good news spread out, the scale of the Sky Rooster Brigade was also increasing exponentially. The people in the disaster area who had been in desperation and helplessness because of the locust plague were immediately ignited with infinite fighting spirit after they read the good news about the Sky Rooster Brigade on the Tang Dynasty Daily. All the states and counties in the Guangzhou area that were affected by the disaster began to carry out large-scale relief operations. At the same time, the various departments of the imperial court had already begun to move. The 12 imperial censors had been sent by Li Air to the 12 disaster-stricken counties to investigate the officials who had failed to provide disaster relief and had even used the locust plague to make money. Moreover, behind each imperial censor was a long transport team. Some of the transport teams even borrowed the power of the Yanwang Chamber of Commerce. This could be considered the second time in the history of the Great Tang that officials and merchants had openly cooperated with each other. The first time was when the imperial court had sent a fleet south to trade for grain last year, and many private merchants had participated. As for the source of the grain, it all came from Chang'an's largest granary, Taicang. Taicang was considered the granary of the imperial family. Its main function was to provide for the imperial family's consumption, rewards, the salaries of officials, military supplies, and the government's financial aid. Although Taicang's main function was to serve the ruling center, it also had some positive functions. For example, whenever there was a famine, Taicang would take out grain to replenish Chongping's granary and suppress the soaring price of grain. It would also sell some grain at a low price to provide relief to the victims. Last year, the imperial court had sent a fleet south to trade for grain and directly filled Taicang to the brim. Now, Taicang had a total of 600,000 dan of grain, and Luoyang's Hanja granary had more than 1 million dan of grain stored. It could be said that the Great Tang had enough resources to deal with this locust plague. As the locust plague had started, The effects of the shortage of grain had not yet appeared. The imperial court had sent a portion of the grain to the various provinces and counties mainly to tell the affected people in the Guangdong region that the imperial court had the strength and ability to help them through this difficult time. In the face of such a huge natural disaster, sometimes it was better to take out white rice than 10,000 words to make the people feel more at ease. Thus, the grain in Taicang was not only for disaster relief, but also to stabilize the people and stabilize the price of grain. Lier not only had to stabilize the price of grain with his words, but also with his actions. On the evening of the 5th day of the Sky Rooster Brigade's expedition, Li Zishuan's group and the Roosters arrived at Yong County. Li Zishuan also finally saw his old friend whom he had not seen for many days, Wang Renbiao. Haha, little Xian, I haven't seen you for nearly half a year. I didn't think that we would meet again under such circumstances. Renbiao really doesn't know if I should be happy or sad in this situation. At the end of last year, Li Er had appointed Wang Renbiao as the provincial governor of Qizhou and ordered him to go to Qizhou at the beginning of this year. Qizhou belonged to Jiangyi province and was also known as Fengxiang province. It had 9 counties under its jurisdiction, and the administrative center was Yong County, where Li Zishuan and the others were now. A natural disaster should be sad for the people, and a meeting should be happy for friends. There is no conflict between the two. Li Zishuan smiled and said. Wang Renbiao's eyes lit up, and he could not help but sigh. Little Xian, you are still as cheerful and open-minded as before. After sighing, his expression suddenly turned solemn. He bowed solemnly and said, Today, as a mere provincial governor, I welcome your Sky Rooster Brigade on behalf of the 400,000 people of Qizhou. Li Zishuan quickly helped him up and said, You and I are brothers. There is no need to be so polite. Besides, it is the Sky Rooster Brigade's duty to kill locusts and provide disaster relief. We are just following the route that we planned before we set off. Even if you are not the provincial governor of Qizhou, the Sky Rooster Brigade will still come to Qizhou. Wang Renbiao shook his head and said, No matter what, I have to support you, little Xian. Little Xian, you must be tired after such a long journey. Follow me back to the provincial governor's mansion to rest. Li Zishuan thought about it and refused. No, it is more important to kill the locusts. Actually, I'm not very tired along the way. After all, I have martial arts. The ones who are most tired are these children. Wang Renbiao could not help but look at the children in the field who were holding loudspeakers and directing the chickens. They were all sweating profusely. However, they were still as enthusiastic as before. He could not help but sigh with emotion. Lantian County is really a place with outstanding talents. With a virtuous and knowledgeable marquis like you, little Xian, these children will definitely be able to do well in the future. I have already ordered people to prepare meat, throat-soothing soup, and summer soup. How about I treat the children tonight? This, Li Zishuan wanted to refuse, but he was interrupted by Lung Yuyao, who was beside him. Marquis, don't refuse. When my young master knew that you were coming to Qizhou today, he had already sent people to prepare these things yesterday. Yuyao knows that you don't lack the money for these meals, but my young master also wants to show his sincerity. Please fulfill his wish. Li Zishuan was helpless. After thinking for a moment, he could only nod and agree. All right, Renbiao, you have to spend money. Actually, Renbiao, you are now the provincial governor of a province. You should prioritize your official duties. There is no need for you to personally come out of the city to welcome us. Wang Renbiao laughed and said, Little Xian, you and I are brothers. There is no need to be polite. The same words, but the answers were different. The two of them could not help but look at each other and smile. All right, I won't be polite with you. Prepare 20 watermelons for the children tonight. Ha, no problem. I will send people to buy them now. Chapter 1486. Haha, eat. All of you eat more. Little guys, you've worked hard all the way here. At night, in Yong County, the provincial governor's mansion held a banquet and invited guests. The entire back garden of the provincial governor's mansion was decorated with lanterns and colored banquets. It was very lively, as if it was the new year. Wang Renbiao walked back and forth between the tables in high spirits and said loudly to the children around the table, "Slurp! Oh, this official is really generous. He even gave us watermelons to eat." Ernyo muttered as he ate the delicious watermelon. Dinyo rolled his eyes and said, he's the provincial governor of Chizhou. How can he not be generous?" Although he was talking, Dinyo's mouth did not stop. Although Li Zishuan had also treated them to watermelon, this thing was not enough for the children. Moreover, they were almost scorched during the day. Eating some watermelon now could cool them down. "Hey, big brother, this watermelon is not cheap. This provincial governor gave us so many watermelons. Where did he get so much money? He can't be a corrupt official, right? In that case, wouldn't we be harming the young master?" As Ernyo ate, he suddenly said something for no reason. Dinyo tilted his head and thought for a while. He also felt that what his second brother said made sense. He quickly spat out the watermelon in his mouth. "Bah, I didn't eat the watermelon of the corrupt official. I didn't harm the young master. Pa, I say, can the two of you not be so imaginative? This provincial governor of Chizhou is master's best friend. Moreover, he is the eldest young master of the Wang family of Taiyuan. It's just treating you to a watermelon meal. Is there a need for him to be corrupt because of this?" Iron Egg, who was sitting at the side, could not listen anymore. He slapped Ernyo's shoulder and said angrily, "Today, more than 100 people were only notified by Li Zishuan to come here for a meal. Not many people knew about Wang Renbiao's identity. However, as Li Zishuan's disciple and brother-in-law, Iron Egg still knew the inside story. This provincial governor of Chizhou is young master's good friend, and he is the eldest young master of the Wang family?" Dinyo opened his mouth wide and was instantly dumbfounded. Swish! Swish! What else was there to say? "I want to eat 5 more watermelons." Ernyo reacted and immediately started eating with full motivation. Last time when Li Zishuan treated them to watermelon, some of them were afraid that they would make Li Zishuan poor if they ate too much, so they didn't dare to eat too much. Today, eldest young Master Wang treated them to watermelon, so what reason did they have to not eat as much as they wanted? After all, even a 5- or 6-year-old kid knew that the Wang family of Taiyuan was a super rich family that had been standing for hundreds of years. It was impossible for the Wang family to collapse because of a few watermelons, right? Seeing Ernyo's gluttonous look, Iron Egg couldn't help but have black lines all over his face. Haha, come on, little Xian. This cup of wine is for our reunion after a long separation. Let's do this. In the pavilion in the middle of the lake in the garden of the provincial governor's mansion, Wang Renbiao and Li Zishuan sat opposite each other, while Leng Yuyao stood by the side. At this time, Wang Renbiao held up a cup of warmth and tenderness and raised his cup to Li Zishuan. It could be seen that Wang Renbiao was very happy to meet an old friend in a foreign land. "Young Master Yuan, Yaoer, don't be a wet blanket. I'm very happy today." Leng Yuyao was about to say something, but was interrupted by Wang Renbiao in time. Leng Yuyao could hear the coldness in Wang Renbiao's tone and could only shut up. Wang Renbiao shook the wine cup in his hand and urged Li Zishuan, "Little Xian, come on, let's have a toast." Although Li Zishuan felt that the atmosphere was a little wrong, he was too lazy to think too much at this moment. He raised his wine cup and clinked it with Wang Renbiao. "I haven't seen you for half a year, Renbiao. Your alcohol tolerance has improved." After 3 rounds of wine, Li Zishuan said half-jokingly, "Hee, little Xian, you've been living in a bustling place like Chang'an for a long time and have a lovely wife as your companion. Naturally, you don't know that in a desolate county like Chizhou, only good wine is the best sustenance." Wang Renbiao's face suddenly became a little dejected, and he seemed to be a little drunk as he muttered. Li Zishuan's eyes flashed. At this time, he could finally conclude that Wang Renbiao was indeed problematic. Oh no, to be precise, Wang Renbiao should be hiding something in his heart. "Renbiao, if you have something in your heart, just say it. As long as it's within my ability, as a brother, I'll definitely do my best to help you. Li Zishuan put down his wine cup and said with a serious face. He can't help. Can't help anyone. Little Xian, come on. Drink. Let me tell you, once a person is drunk, it's like he's an immortal, incomparably happy. If you don't believe me, you can try it. Wang Rinbiao waved his hand and then poured himself another cup of wine. He raised his head and drank it all. Li Zishuan curled his lips. When he was drunk, he would only have a splitting headache, but he had never felt as happy as an immortal. Perhaps only those who drown their sorrows in alcohol would have such a feeling, right? Because the air they breathed in reality was bitter. Only when they were drunk and entered a dream would they forget the bitterness. Young master, you can't drink anymore. Lung Yao, who was standing at the side, couldn't hold it in anymore. She went up and took the wine pot from Wang Rinbiao's hand and shook her head. Lung Yao, are you going to disobey me too? Wang Rinbiao's voice suddenly became incomparably cold, causing Lung Yuyao's body to tremble. At this time, she saw that his hair had unknowingly become messy. With his disheveled appearance, he looked like a drunken, arrogant scholar, but also like a lonely lovelorn. Li Zishuan had never seen Wang Rinbiao like this before. He couldn't help but advise, Rinbiao, you've drunk too much. Go and rest first. If there's anything, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Miss Lung, quickly help your young master to rest. Lung Yao looked at Li Zishuan gratefully and then went up to help Wang Rinbiao up from the chair. However, Wang Rinbiao twisted his body and broke free. He snorted, I'm not drunk. I'm not drunk. Who dares to pull me? Little Xian, come, it's rare for us brothers to meet. Let's get drunk tonight. Cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. At the end, he actually coughed. Moreover, this cough was completely unstoppable. His shoulders couldn't help but tremble violently. Lung Yao panicked and quickly took out a white silk handkerchief from her sleeve. Young master, quickly go back to your room and lie down. Yao, or we'll send someone to call Dr. Zhang over right now. Cough, cough, cough. Wang Rinbiao's entire body arched as he coughed. Suddenly, his expression changed. He quickly snatched the handkerchief from Lung Yuyao's hand and coughed heavily. Then, as if he had collapsed, he directly fell into Lung Yuyao's arms. That white and flawless handkerchief was now dyed bright red. As Wang Rinbiao fell, that handkerchief slowly fell to the ground. Someone, quickly go to the west of the city and call for Dr. Zhang. Lung Yuyao's face instantly turned pale. At this moment, she couldn't care about anything else. She directly helped Wang Rinbiao up and anxiously said to the servants in the courtyard. Li Zishuan's expression changed. He quickly got up to help Lung Yao support Wang Rinbiao and said to Hu Hanyan in the courtyard, Uncle Hu, let the children go back to rest. Today's banquet is over. Yes, young master. Old Hu also knew that something urgent had happened in the provincial governor's residence and couldn't be delayed. He responded and called a group of stunned children out of the provincial governor's residence. Miss Lung, quickly help Rinbiao lie down on the bed. Let me take a look at him first. Li Zishuan looked at Lung Yuyao, whose face was full of tears, and said in a deep voice. Lung Yuyao, who had always been a cold-faced swordswoman, was not only crying like a pear blossom in the rain, she was also a little confused. After Li Zishuan's voice fell, it took her a while to realize that Li Zishuan also seemed to know medical skills. Thus, her eyes suddenly burst forth with infinite splendor. Marquis, you must save my young master. Lung Yao supported Wang Renbiao into the room and said to Li Zishuan with a face full of expectation. Li Zishuan nodded and said, Renbiao is my good brother. I will do my best. While the two were talking, they had already helped Wang Renbiao into the side room and laid him down on the bed. Li Zishuan grabbed Wang Renbiao's wrist, and a pure and gentle Taoist true qi slowly entered Wang Renbiao's body, from his wrist to his arm, then to his internal organs, limbs, and bones. Li Zishuan's brows were knitted deeper and deeper. Lung Yuyao was trembling with fear as she watched from the side. She was so anxious that tears fell down drop by drop, but she didn't dare to make any noise. Miss Lung, Dr. Zhang, is here. After an unknown period of time, a servant's shout came from outside the room. Come in. Lung Yuyao saw that Li Zixuan didn't speak for a long time and was at a loss. When she heard the servant's shout, it was as if she heard a voice from the heavens and hurriedly said. But then she realized that this was disrespectful to Li Zixuan and hurriedly said, Wait, don't come in first. But her words were a little too late. A white-haired old man carrying a medicine box had already walked in. The old man couldn't help but say with an awkward expression, Miss Lung, should this old man come in or go out? Lung Yuyao couldn't help but be embarrassed. She froze there and didn't know what to say. Since you're here, come forward and take a look at Provincial Governor Wang. At this time, Li Zixuan, who was taking Wang Runbiao's pulse by the bed, finally stood up and said to the old man, This? The old man had a troubled expression. For a moment, he didn't know what to hear, because he knew Lung Yuyao, but he didn't know Li Zixuan. Lung Yuyao first looked at Li Zixuan apologetically, then said to the old man, Marquis Owen wants you to take a look at my young master. Why aren't you going? You are Marquis Owen? Pardon my disrespect. The old man opened his mouth in shock. Li Zixuan wasn't just famous in martial arts and engineering, he was also extremely famous in the medical field. After all, other than the Imperial Physician Bureau, the best medical institution in Great Tang was on Mount Yinshan. This old man will take Provincial Governor Wang's pulse now. The old man wiped the sweat on his forehead and suddenly felt a little pressured. After all, he had heard of Li Zixuan treating Qin Xiong's illness. In his opinion, Li Zixuan's medical skills definitely wouldn't lose to him. Marquis, I'm sorry. Yuyao lost her composure just now and let Physician Zhang in. At the door, Lung Yuyao said softly with an apologetic expression. Li Zixuan waved his hand and said, This Marquis isn't a petty person. Some doctors have the problem of being arrogant because of their talents, but this Marquis doesn't. The most important thing now is to stabilize Renbiao's condition. Then we could talk about other things. Lung Yuyao said gratefully, Thank you, Marquis. After pausing for a moment, she asked softly, Marquis, how is my young master? Li Zixuan shook his head and said in a deep voice, Let's talk about it after Physician Zhang is done. Although Lung Yuyao was anxious, she couldn't persuade him anymore. She could only suppress the uneasiness in her heart and wait quietly by the side. 15 minutes later, Physician Zhang stood up and walked toward Lung Yuyao and Li Zixuan. How's my young master, Physician Zhang? Lung Yuyao couldn't wait to welcome him and asked. Physician Zhang sighed and said, Miss Lung, the provincial governor is still suffering from his old illness. This old man has already told him not to let the provincial governor drink anymore. But why? At this point, he looked at the tear-stained Lung Yuyao and thought that the other party wouldn't be able to persuade Wang Renbiao to drink. So he sighed helplessly and said, Sigh. To the provincial governor, alcohol is a poison that penetrates the intestines. Miss Lung, if it's for the sake of the provincial governor, please don't let him drink anymore. Lung Yuyao's tears fell to the ground, and she nodded repeatedly. I will definitely not let my young master drink anymore in the future. Physician Zhang, when do you think my young master will wake up? Physician Zhang shook his head and said with a difficult expression, It's hard to say. If it's short, it'll be an hour. If it's long, it'll be 3 to 5 days. Of course, this is only this old man's personal opinion. If I've said something wrong, I hope Miss Lung and Marquis can forgive me. After saying that, he cupped his hands toward Lung Yuyao and Li Zixuan. Lung Yuyao quickly turned her gaze to Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan said in a deep voice, Physician Zhang's diagnosis is basically correct. It's just that this Marquis feels that although drinking too much has hurt Renbiao's liver and stomach, Renbiao's biggest problem right now is that he overthinks and has a knot in his heart. If this heart disease can't be cured, even if he doesn't drink for the rest of his life, his body will continue to deteriorate. A trace of surprise flashed across Lung Yuyao's eyes, but it was more of pain. The tears in her eyes flowed faster. She probably didn't cry as much as she did in the past 10 years. At this time, Physician Zhang nodded and said, Marquis is right. This old man has also said that the provincial governor has more of a heart disease. But this old man has lived for dozens of years and only knows how to treat physical illnesses, but not mental illnesses. Please forgive this old man for being powerless, Miss Lung. Farewell." After saying that, Physician Zhang carried the medicine box and turned to leave without waiting for Lung Yuyao's persuasion. Physician Zhang, by the time Lung Yuyao reacted, Physician Zhang had already gone out of the door. She could only look at Li Zixuan and begged, "Marquis, your medical skills are brilliant. Yuyao begs you to save my young master." Li Zixuan said with a pained face, "Run Biao is my brother." Seeing him in such a situation, this Marquis is also heartbroken, but the heart disease still needs to be cured. Before that, Miss Lung, you have to tell this Marquis in detail. What has Ren Biao experienced in the past 6 months in Qizhou? Lung Yuyao opened her mouth. After hesitating for a moment, she said softly, "My young master, he fell in love with a commoner girl." Chapter 1487. What? Ren Biao fell in love with a commoner girl? Inside the provincial governor's mansion, after hearing Lung Yuyao's words, Li Zixuan's eyes widened as he exclaimed in disbelief. No wonder Wang Renbiao said that no one could help him at the banquet table. Li Zixuan really couldn't help him with this matter. Since ancient times, it was difficult for an upright official to settle a family dispute, not to mention the marriage of the eldest son of the Wang family of Taiyuan. Li Zixuan himself didn't care about family background, but that didn't mean that others didn't. As a large aristocratic family, the Wang family of Taiyuan valued family background more than anyone else. As a matter of fact, the 5 surnames and 7 gazes had always attached great importance to the marriage of their clan's disciples. They would usually choose to marry between the 5 surnames and 7 gazes for generations. Currently, the 7 great clans, the 4 great clans, were basically related to the other 4 great clans. This was the result of generations of marriage. For thousands of years, commoners had always been proud of marrying a girl of the 5 surnames. Even some important officials in the imperial court were the same. However, it was often difficult for ordinary people to marry a girl of the 5 surnames because their family background wasn't enough. Later on, the 5 surnames came up with something called dowry money. What was dowry money? To put in layman's terms, if a high official wanted to marry a girl of the 5 surnames but didn't have the prestige, he would need dowry money. Dowry money could be millions, but even so, there were still many people who flocked to it. If a girl of the 5 surnames was like this, how could a man of the 5 surnames get married so casually? Especially since Wang Renbiao was the eldest son of the Wang family of Taiyuan. It was almost impossible for him to marry a commoner girl. Wang Yu wouldn't agree, Princess Tang and wouldn't agree, and the other elders of the Wang family of Taiyuan wouldn't agree either. Young master did fall in love with a commoner girl, but that girl doesn't seem to like young master. This damn girl is really blind. Young master is willing to lower himself to take a fancy to her, but she doesn't know what's good for her. At the end, a trace of anger appeared on Lung Yuyao's face. Li Zixuan couldn't help but say, "That girl doesn't like Renbiao. Shouldn't Miss Lung be happy?" Li Zixuan had long seen through Lung Yuyao's feelings for Wang Renbiao, so he asked this question. Lung Yuyao stared blankly for a moment before her face flushed red. This made Li Zixuan click his tongue in wonder. Even an icy beauty like Lung Yuyao would blush. "I'm only young master's shadow. Wherever young master goes, I will be there. But I will never be young master's woman, because I know that I don't have the qualifications. In this life, I only want to silently guard by young master's side. I will never have any improper thoughts." After a moment of silence, Lung Yuyao said softly. Li Zixuan was speechless. He didn't think that Lung Yuyao's love would be so humble. Sure enough, the prejudice of family status killed people. "Miss Lung, what's the name of the woman that Renbiao likes? Where does he live? How did they know each other? Can you tell me more about it?" The awkward atmosphere lasted for a long time. Li Zixuan wasn't good at comforting people, so the two just stood there quietly. After a long time, Li Zixuan opened his mouth and asked faintly. He was really curious about the woman that could make Wang Ren Biao fall head over heels for her. Who was she? Lung Yuyao's face turned cold. She paused for a moment and recalled. At the beginning of this year, young master was ordered to take up his position in Qizhou. When he arrived at Yong County, the people of Yong County lined the streets to welcome him, but there was one exception. Just as young master was about to enter the city, a white-clothed woman in mourning clothes and two servants carrying a coffin blocked the city gate. Wearing mourning clothes and blocking the gate with a coffin. Could it be that there was an unjust case in Yong County? Li Zixuan couldn't help but interject when he heard this. Lung Yuyao nodded expressionlessly and said, there was indeed an unjust case. At that time, young master also didn't expect to encounter such a thing. But young master was kind and didn't blame her for it. Instead, he went up and asked the woman if there was an unjust case. After some questioning, he found out that the woman's name was Li Jingchu. Her father's name was Li Xingyun. Li Xingyun had owned a carriage shop when he was alive. It was the largest carriage shop in the Qizhou. He bought goods from the members of the Yin Huang Chamber of Commerce and specialized in selling carriages and bicycles from the Strange Taste Pavilion in the Qizhou. But by chance, the former county magistrate of Yong County, Zhang Liang, took a fancy to Li Jingchu's beauty and wanted to take her as his concubine. Although Li Jingchu was the daughter of a merchant, she had her own pride. Of course, she wouldn't marry a man in his 40s and would rather die than become his concubine. Zhang Liang couldn't be forced, so he could only set his sights on Li Xingyun. He first invited Li Xingyun to the county office and tried to persuade him. But Li Xingyun wasn't willing to use his daughter's happiness to climb up the social ladder, so he tactfully refused. Zhang Liang was furious and threatened to make Li Xingyun unable to do business in Yong County. From then on, the Li family's carriage shop had local ruffians causing trouble every few days. Li Xingyun reported it to the officials a few times, but in the end, nothing was done. What was more serious was that one night, a large group of bailiffs suddenly surrounded the Li family's residence. Zhang Liang said that there was a treasonous item in the Li family's residence and wanted to search it. When Li Xingyun heard the news, he immediately came out of his bedroom. But he couldn't stop the bailiffs from searching the residence. The entire Li family was in chaos. The women were also alarmed. They all put on their clothes and left their rooms to avoid being violated. Li Xingyun thought that Zhang Liang was just trying to scare him, but who knew that the bailiffs really found a treasonous item in the Li family's residence. It was a gold medal. Gold medal? What gold medal? Li Zixuan was curious. Lung Yuyao paused for a moment and said softly, that gold medal came from the Eastern Palace, and it was engraved in the Wuda era. Hidden Crown Prince? Li Zixuan sucked in a breath of cold air. He secretly thought that the county magistrate was really King Ruthless. He actually used King Shili Jiansheng to frame Li Xingyun. This was playing with fire. Lung Yuyao nodded and said, that's right. That was the gold medal used by the Eastern Palace when the Hidden Crown Prince was still in power. Zhang Liang used this as an excuse to put Li Xingyun in jail. In jail, he ordered the jailers to torture Li Xingyun and force Li Xingyun to agree to marry his daughter to him. He also secretly sent someone to send a message to Li Jingchu, saying that if she wanted to save her father, she would obediently become his concubine. In order to save her father, Li Jingchu hesitated for a while before finally deciding to give up her lifelong happiness. That day, she went to the county yamen alone and expressed her willingness to give herself to Zhang Liang, begging him to let her father go. Zhang Liang naturally agreed and immediately ordered the yamen runner to bring Li Xingyun out of the prison. But who knew that the yamen runner would return empty-handed in less than a quarter of an hour? It turned out that Li Xingyun was worried that Li Jingchu would do something stupid in order to save him. Coupled with the fact that he couldn't endure Zhang Liang's torture, he used a wooden chopstick to pierce his throat and committed suicide. Li Zixuan's eyes flashed with a trace of anger. He couldn't help but say, bastard, how can such a scum be worthy of being a county magistrate? Miss Lung, what happened after that? Where is that Zhang Liang now? Lung Yao sighed softly and continued to narrate. When Li Jingchu heard that Li Xingyun had committed suicide in the prison, she was extremely sad. She immediately pulled out the knife in the Yamen runner's hand and was about to slash at Zhang Liang, but Zhang Liang narrowly dodged it. Zhang Liang was naturally shocked and furious that his head was almost chopped off. He quickly ordered his men to capture Li Jingchu. But right at that moment, a Yamen runner came to report that my young master was about to enter the city. In order to leave a good impression in front of my young master, Zhang Liang quickly turned around to prepare a carriage and went out of the city to welcome him. Li Jingchu took the opportunity to escape. Logically speaking, if Zhang Liang had sent someone to chase after her, he would definitely have been able to catch up with her. But in order to welcome my young master, he didn't want to create unnecessary trouble at such a crucial time, so he didn't send anyone to chase after her. After Li Jingchu returned home, she immediately asked the servants to prepare mourning clothes for her and went to a coffin shop to buy a coffin. Then, she put on her mourning clothes and led people to carry the coffin to the city gates of Yong County. Coincidentally, she blocked my young master's path. Thus, the scene just now happened. It's actually an empty coffin. This woman is quite quick-witted. Li Zishuan couldn't help but sigh. Oomph. Lung Yao sneered and continued. At that time, Li Jingchu told my young master that if my young master could make a decision for her, this coffin would be prepared for her father who died unjustly in prison. If my young master and Zhang Liang were in cahoots, then this coffin would be prepared for her. What the F asterisk CK? So ruthless. Li Zishuan couldn't help but take a deep breath. This woman was so ruthless. She was even tougher than most men. Isn't she very special? Lung Yuyao asked without rhyme or reason. Li Zishuan nodded subconsciously. Then, he realized that something was wrong and quickly shook his head. Lung Yuyao smiled bitterly and said, "At that time, my young master also saw Zhang Jingchu in a new light because of this sentence. In my impression, my young master had never looked at other women with that kind of gaze. There was gentleness and pity in that gaze, and there was even some indescribable and inexplicable feelings. Now that I think about it, it should be love." Li Zishuan pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Usually, the best choice at such a time was to stay silent and be a quiet and pure listener. After a moment's pause, Lung Yuyao continued. After hearing Li Jingchu's statement, my young master immediately ordered the arrest of Zhang Liang. However, Zhang Liang was long gone by then. My young master had no choice but to order a search in the entire Qizhou. And then, did you find the Zhang Liang? Li Zishuan asked. Lung Yuyao shook her head and said no. After searching for nearly half a year, Qizhou was almost turned over by the state government's bailiffs. My young master even mobilized the family's secret guards, but he still couldn't find Zhang Liang's shadow. It was as if this person had evaporated into thin air. There's actually such a strange thing. Li Zishuan couldn't help but frown. In his heart, he felt that this matter revealed a trace of strangeness. Regarding the secret guards of the aristocratic families, he had already heard about it during the rebellion in Guan City. Even the Black Armored Army would suffer relatively large casualties when facing them head-on. It was enough to show that the secret guards of the aristocratic families were definitely not ordinary. The entire Qizhou's army, plus some of the Wang family's secret guards, couldn't find Zhang Liang after half a year. Lung Yao nodded and said, "My young master, and I also feel that it's very strange. Although it's said that finding a person in a vast sea of people is like finding a needle in a haystack, it's impossible for my young master to not find him after mobilizing so many people and searching for half a year. Unless this person can fly and escape from Qizhou in a short period of time." Li Zishuan was silent for a moment, then shook his head and said, "Forget it. Let's not talk about this first. Let's talk about Ren Biao and Li Jingchu. What happened after that? What happened between them?" At this time, Li Zishuan was like a woman who liked to gossip. He was actually a little addicted to listening to other people's affairs. Lung Yuyao pursed her lips and said, "Later on, Li Jingchu transported Li Xingyun's corpse out of the prison and buried it in a low-key manner. My young master attended Li Xingyun's funeral and told Li Jingchu that if she needed anything, she could go to the provincial governor's mansion to find him. From then on, I already felt that my young master did indeed treat Li Jingchu differently from others, but that Li Jingchu was unmoved by my young master's good intentions. Her birth mother passed away early, and Li Xingyun remarried a few years ago. After Li Xingyun committed suicide, the Li family's huge assets were all seized by her concubine mother because her younger brother was born from her concubine mother. When Li Jingchu was in poverty, my young master sent people to give her money more than once, but she didn't accept it. When she was chased out of the house by her concubine mother time and time again, my young master extended a helping hand time and time again, but was rejected by her every time. Why is that? Ren Biao is young and has a high position. Moreover, he is a talented person. Why does Li Jingchu keep him at a respectful distance? Hearing up to here, Li Zixuan couldn't help but wonder. The more he listened, the more he felt that this story was like the story of Cinderella and the prince. However, although Li Jingchu was a Cinderella who was tortured by her stepmother, Wang Renbiao wasn't the prince who could win Cinderella's heart. But logically speaking, Wang Renbiao's hard conditions weren't bad. He had a powerful family background, an official position, money, and good looks. He was simply the perfect husband in the hearts of the women of this era. Why didn't Li Jingchu like him? Hearing Li Zixuan's question, Leng Yao was a little angry and said, "Humph. It's that Li Jingchu who doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. She doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. My young master appreciating her is her fortune. She actually doesn't know what's good for her and brushes away my young master's good intentions again and again. She doesn't know that even if she is willing, master and princess aren't willing." Hearing that, Li Zixuan couldn't help but be speechless. This Leng Yuyao's logic was really weird. In her eyes, any woman that Wang Renbiao took a fancy to should be that woman's fortune. That woman should eagerly come up to thank Wang Renbiao for his appreciation. This was probably the scene in Leng Yuyao's heart. Indeed, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Cough, cough. Cough, cough. Yaoer, don't talk nonsense. Just at this moment, a violent cough came from the bed. It turned out that Wang Renbiao, who was in a coma, actually woke up at this moment. Young master, you're awake? Are you thirsty? Do you want to drink water?" Leng Yuyao was shocked and hurriedly walked to the side of the bed. She squatted down and asked with both joy and concern. Chapter 1488. I'm fine. In the side room of the provincial governor's residence, Wang Renbiao finally calmed down after coughing for a while. With Leng Yuyao's help, Wang Renbiao propped himself up and leaned against the bed. He turned to Li Zixuan and bitterly smiled. "Little Xian, I'll let you see a joke. I brought this upon myself, and I shouldn't have told Yao to disturb your state of mind." Li Zixuan frowned. "We're brothers, and there are some things that we should share together. Indeed, I can't interfere in the matters of the Wang clan, but I, Li Zixuan, can't watch my brother suffer. If Renbiao truly likes that Li Jingchu, then courageously pursue her. Let's not worry about the consequences for now. Even if your father and Princess Tang and don't agree to this marriage, we'll think of another way. The worst outcome is that you'll be expelled from the Wang clan, but do you care about that?" Li Zixuan vaguely remembered that Wang Renbiao's son was called Wang Fangyi, a famous general of the Great Tang during the Gaozong era. His mother's surname seemed to be Li, and she might be the Li Jingchu that Leng Yuyao spoke of. Bringing this pair of fated people together was not only to follow the trend of history, but also to help Wang Renbiao fulfill his wish. If Wang Renbiao continued in this state, he might not be able to live for long. This was definitely not an exaggeration. When he took Wang Renbiao's pulse earlier, he could feel that the latter's pulse was weak, and there was an extremely dense, gloomy aura in his body. Furthermore, Wang Renbiao also died at an early age, so Li Zixuan couldn't help but be cautious. At this moment, as long as he could resolve the knot in Wang Renbiao's heart, Li Zixuan was willing to do anything, let alone persuading him to fall out with Wang Yu and Princess Tongan. This was because he felt that Wang Runbiao was a good person, and he valued this friendship. Lung Yuyao, who was standing by the side, couldn't help but stiffen. What did he mean by the worst outcome is that he'll be expelled from the Wang clan? When did the title of the eldest son of the Wang clan become so worthless? Furthermore, who would persuade someone to betray the clan? Was he trying to persuade him? Just as she was about to say something, Wang Runbiao, who was lying on the bed, said, "Of course I don't care about these empty titles. The title of the eldest son of the Wang family in Taiyuan may mean glory and wealth in the eyes of ordinary people, but for me, it's more of a burden. Although ordinary people live in poverty, they can find a wife who can share weal and woe with them for the rest of their lives. But I don't even have the right to pursue the person I like. I'd rather not be the eldest son of the Wang family." Li Zixuan nodded approvingly and said, "Since you don't care about these false reputations, then what's there to worry about? Even if you leave the Wang clan with your talent and knowledge, are you afraid that you won't be able to make a living? Moreover, even if you leave the Wang clan, you still have me as your brother. How can I just stand by and watch you suffer? Therefore, use all your strength to pursue the person you think is worth pursuing. If you are overcautious, you will only get nothing. Don't regret it when you are old. It will be too late by then." This guy's encouraging words greatly moved Wang Renbiao. He had always been very conflicted. He liked a person, but he didn't dare to use all his strength to pursue her because he was worried that his family would oppose him. Until now, he hadn't pursued his love, and his body had already collapsed. After Li Zixuan's words, Wang Renbiao suddenly felt enlightened. Indeed, if he was overcautious, it was very likely that he wouldn't get anything. It was better to let go of all the burdens and unscrupulously fall in love. At that time, even if he lost his identity as the young master of an aristocratic family, it would be worth it. "Xiaoxian, you are the first person to support me. It is the fortune of my life to have a friend like you." Wang Renbiao looked at Li Zixuan and said seriously. From this sentence, Li Zixuan could also tell that Wang Renbiao had made a decision in his heart. He couldn't help laughing and said, "Ha ha, you and I are brothers. Don't say such mushy words. A real man should have no regrets in his life. As your brother, I hope that you can pull yourself together as soon as possible and pursue the woman you like." Lung Yuyao's face suddenly darkened. She bowed and said, "Young master, you just woke up from a serious illness. You must be hungry. I will go to the kitchen and get someone to cook some porridge for you." After saying that, without waiting for Wang Runbiao to respond, Lung Yuyao turned and left the room. Her back view was very bleak. Li Zixuan looked at Lung Yuyao with a complicated gaze. He felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. He only cared about comforting Wang Renbiao and neglected Lung Yuyao's feelings. Although Lung Yuyao once said that she didn't have any extravagant hopes of becoming Wang Renbiao's woman, this kind of behavior in front of her, encouraging Wang Renbiao to pursue another woman, would more or less hurt her. Sigh. It's also troublesome to have too many women. Fortunately, I only have one wife. At the end of his thoughts, Li Zixuan couldn't help but rejoice. Miss Lung is also a good woman. Seeing Wang Renbiao looking at Lung Yuyao's back view with a complicated gaze, Li Zixuan, who came back to his senses, suddenly said meaningfully. Wang Renbiao was startled. He then smiled bitterly and said, "Little Xian, don't make fun of me. I only treat Yao, as a younger sister. There are no feelings between us. Enough. I don't care about your matters. As a brother, I only hope that you can untie the knot in your heart as soon as possible and pursue your own happiness. This way, we can continue to drink and chat merrily in the future." Li Zixuan waved his hand and said. Wang Renbiao nodded, but then frowned again. He smiled bitterly and said, "Sigh. But Jingxu has always been neither close nor distant to me. I really don't know where to start. Little Xian, you are quite experienced in this aspect. Can you teach this brother?" Li Zixuan heard this, and his forehead was full of black lines. "What do you mean by I am quite experienced in this aspect? I only have one wife, okay? Do you have to make me sound like a saint of love?" But compared to Wang Renbiao, who was a noob in the field of love, he did have a little more experience in this aspect. Rinbiao, have you ever thought about why Misty has been keeping a distance from you? Could it be that she feels that she is of low birth and not worthy of you? After a moment of silence, Li Zixuan asked. Wang Rinbiao shook his head without thinking and said no. Although Jingchu is a woman, she is also a proud person. She has never lowered her voice just because I am the eldest young master of the Wang family and the Qizhou provincial governor. She has her own pride and is definitely not someone who belittles herself. Li Zixuan was puzzled and asked, then why is she still unwilling to accept you? Could it be that she has no feelings for you at all? Wang Rinbiao hesitated for a moment and said, that shouldn't be the case. In the process of interacting with her, I can feel that she definitely has some feelings for me. But I feel that she might have some misgivings in her heart. So, she has been keeping a distance from me. Misgivings? What misgivings could it be? Li Zixuan rubbed his chin and fell into deep thought. Just like that, the two big men were not sleeping in the middle of the night, but were thinking about the thoughts of a little woman together. He did not know if Li Jingchu should feel honored or unlucky if she knew about it. Why don't I go meet that Li Jingchu and help you sound her out, if you don't mind? After a long silence, Li Zixuan looked at Wang Renbiao and said. Wang Renbiao nodded and said, Xiao Xian, it would be best if you could help her out. Why would I mind? Li Zixuan laughed bitterly in his heart. He secretly wondered why he was acting like a matchmaker. He said, that's good. It should take a few more days for the Sky Pheasant Brigade to clear out the locusts in Qizhou. Tomorrow, I will go to the Li family to meet Li Jingchu. Wang Renbiao solemnly cupped his hands and said, Xiao Xian, I can't thank you enough. I, Wang Renbiao, will remember this kindness. Li Zixuan did not mind and said, let's not talk about this first. After you get married, just treat me to a cup of wine. Wang Renbiao smiled. He suddenly remembered something and quickly said, oh, right, Xiao Xian, there's something I forgot to tell you. When I heard that your Sky Pheasant Brigade was coming to Qizhou, I ordered the county magistrates to start collecting chickens from the people. Now, 120,000 chickens from the counties have gathered in the city, and all of them have been marked and registered. Xiao Xian, you can add them to the Sky Pheasant Brigade tomorrow. Li Zixuan's eyes lit up and said happily, 120,000? That's great. With these 120,000 chickens, the Sky Pheasant Brigade scale will increase to 620,000. It has basically reached the limit of the children's control ability. Wang Renbiao nodded and said, yes, as long as it can help you, Xiao Xian. Li Zixuan thanked him and then left. You jinx, why did you come back again? Do you want to kill everyone in your family before you are satisfied? In a luxurious mansion in the west of Yong County, a woman in embroidered clothes and a group of servants blocked the gate of the mansion and said fiercely to a woman in white clothes, this is my home. Why can't I go back? The plain-clothed woman, however, remained fearless as she retorted with a cold expression. You damn girl, how do you talk back? If it weren't for you Jinx, how could Master be harmed by that corrupt official Zhang Liang? How can you still have the face to step into this house? The woman in embroidered clothes said with a sharp voice, my father? You still have the face to mention my father? The plain-clothed woman's expression turned cold, and the temperature around her dropped to freezing point. She said coldly, back then, before my father's body was even cold and he was buried, some people were already in a hurry to divide up the family property. They replaced the shopkeeper and accountant of the carriage shop with their own family members. Lu Yuerong, do you dare to say that you have a clear conscience in front of my father's memorial tablet? You rebelled. You wild girl, you're really rebelling. No matter what, I'm still your concubine. How dare you call me by my name? You're really a wild girl who didn't have a mother to teach you. The woman in embroidered clothes pointed at the woman in white clothes with trembling hands and feet, and her voice became sharp. The woman in plain clothes had a cold glint in her eyes. She coldly stared at the woman. If looks could kill, then the woman would have been cut into 1,000 pieces. If my mother was still alive, how could a vicious woman like you be so arrogant? I came back today just to burn incense for my father. I don't want to argue with you. Burn incense? Don't even think about it. Men, Get this jinx out of here. The woman in embroidered clothes glared and ordered the servants around her. Let me see who dares. The woman in white clothes shouted, My father treated all of you well when he was alive. You all know very well whether the Lee family is thriving or declining under this woman's hands. Normally, I can't be bothered to argue with this woman. Today, I, Li Jingchu, just want to burn incense for my father. If any of you dare to stop me, my father's spirit in heaven will not forgive you. As soon as she said that, the servants around the madam looked at each other and hesitated. That's right, this woman was Li Jingchu, whom Wang Rinbiao had been thinking about. Who else could the woman be but Li Jingchu's second concubine? You guys quickly stop this jinx. Otherwise, don't even think about getting your salary this month. When the woman saw that the servants in the residence didn't listen to her orders, she almost fainted from anger. She quickly used her ultimate move. The servants looked at each other, but still, no one dared to stop Li Jingchu. The main reason was that Li Xingyun had treated his servants well when he was alive. Moreover, what Li Jingchu said just now made sense. The Li family was deteriorating day by day under Lu Yuerong's management. At this rate, Li Xingyun's family business would be squandered away by Lu Yuerong sooner or later. As servants, they would definitely be dismissed by then. Rather than that, they might as well form a good relationship with Li Jingchu and also comfort Li Xingyun's spirit in heaven. Lu Yuerong, let me give you a piece of advice. Disasters can be forgiven, but disasters brought on by oneself are the hardest to bear. Li Jingchu looked at Lu Yuerong coldly, then snorted and walked into the Li residence. She's really a woman with character. Opposite the Li residence, Li Zishuan sat beside a tea stall and looked at Li Jingchu's back as he muttered to himself. He had come to the Li residence early in the morning to wait. Originally, he just wanted to try his luck. He didn't expect to actually meet Li Jingchu. The courage and quick-wittedness that Li Jingchu displayed during their first meeting had indeed exceeded Li Zishuan's expectations. This kind of woman might not be considered much in the modern era. There were plenty of career women who were more capable than her. However, in the ancient era, women who could be so quick-witted and brave were definitely rare. No wonder Wang Rinbiao saw Li Jingchu in a different light, fighting alone against the evil woman and her servants. Miss Li is really brave. Half an hour later, Li Jingchu left the Li residence. Not long after she left, she heard a man's praise behind her. Li Jingchu quickly turned around and saw a rather handsome man looking at her with a smile on his face. Li Jingchu's heart instantly became vigilant. Who are you? How do you know my surname is Li? Miss Li, can we talk in private? Oh, don't worry, I won't harm you. Let's meet at the tea stall in front. Chapter 1489. Who are you? You should be able to tell me now, right? In Yong County, under a tea stall not far from the Li residence, Li Jingchu looked at Li Zishuan and asked calmly. She and Li Zishuan had never met before. Just now, Li Zishuan had asked to speak with her alone. She had always been very vigilant, but for some reason, she had unexpectedly agreed. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel a burst of fear. She secretly blamed herself for being too careless. She actually dared to be alone with a man she didn't even know. Miss Li, there's no need to be nervous. Speaking of which, the carriage business your father founded is related to me. Li Zishuan chuckled. Related to the carriage business my father founded? Li Jingchu frowned and asked curiously, could young master be from Chang An's Yanhuang Chamber of Commerce's Uncle Lin's family? Li Zishuan was stunned and then understood. Previously, he heard from Lung Yao that Lin Wenyuan founded the carriage business by buying carriages and bicycles from members of the Yanhuang Chamber of Commerce and reselling them in Qizhou. Now it seemed that the member of the Yanhuang Chamber of Commerce was most likely Lin Wenyuan. Miss, you must be talking about Lin Wenyuan, Boss Lin, right? I'm not from a Lin family, but the bicycles and carriages sold by the Lin family all came from my hands. After pondering for a moment, Li Zishuan smiled and said, You're the Marquis of Yong'an? Li Jingchu's eyes flickered and her expression changed. She suddenly exclaimed in disbelief. Miss Li is smart. You guessed right. I'm the Marquis of Yong'an. Li Zishuan nodded and praised. Seeing Li Zishuan's sincere face and extraordinary aura, Li Jingchu subconsciously chose to believe him. She stood up in surprise and bowed to Li Zishuan. I'm Li Jingchu. Greetings to the Marquis of Yong'an. He. No need for formalities. Li Zishuan raised his hands and said politely. He didn't expect the conversation with Li Jingchu to go so smoothly, but Li Jingchu was willing to believe his identity, and the current situation showed that Li Jingchu didn't have any bad feelings towards him. This was a good start. What Li Zishuan didn't know was that due to his long years of cultivation in Taoist techniques, his temperament had long been different from that of ordinary people. The natural aura of Taoist techniques on his body had a special attraction to the living beings of the world, making them subconsciously feel a sense of familiarity. It was a mysterious feeling, but it was also a real phenomenon. Yesterday, I heard that the Marquis of Yong and led the Sky Pheasant Brigade to Chizhou. Jingchu has admired Marquis's reputation for a long time, but yesterday, I had no chance to see Marquis's real face because of the mundane affairs I had to attend to. To be able to see Marquis today is truly Jingchu's good fortune, Li Jingchu said excitedly. The previous vigilance in her heart had now turned into joy. Facing the suddenly enthusiastic Li Jingchu, Li Zishuan was not used to it. He waved his hand and laughed dryly. Miss Li, you're exaggerating. I'm just an ordinary person. What reputation do I have? At most, I've done some things for the people. But for my position in politics, those are all what I should do. Li Jingchu shook her head and said, Marquis treats the people well. Everyone in the world knows that. First, there was the curved yuan plow, and then there was the Sky Pheasant Brigade going to the counties to exterminate locusts today. The people of the world have all received Marquis's kindness. If this is only for his position in politics, then I don't know how many officials in the dynasty are incompetent. The person my father admired the most when he was alive was you, Marquis. It's a pity that my father didn't have the chance to see Marquis until his death. At this point, Li Jingchu's face suddenly became sad. Li Zishuan couldn't help but comfort her. Miss Li, the dead can't be brought back to life. I already know a thing or two about your father. I'm very sorry. Before this, although I didn't know your father's character, your father would rather die than submit for your lifelong happiness. Just based on this point alone, he was a good father worthy of respect. I believe that if your father's spirit is in heaven, he will definitely hope that you can live a happy life and not be sad for him all day. No. Li Jingchu's eyes were red and swollen. She shook her head fiercely and said, If possible, I'd rather marry Zhang Liang than let my father commit suicide. Lu Yuerong is actually right. I'm indeed a jinx. I'm the one who caused my father's death. At this point, a teardrop fell from the corner of Li Jingchu's eye. When Lu Yuerong was making things difficult for her, she could force the other party to be speechless with just a few words. But now, she couldn't help but cry after saying a few words to Li Zishuan. From this, it could be seen that her strength was just for others to see. Under her strong appearance, there was a fragmented and fragile heart on the verge of collapse. Seeing this scene, Li Zishuan felt a little uncomfortable. After a moment of silence, he said, Miss Li, your father's death can't be blamed on you no matter what. Saying that you're a jinx is even more nonsense. It's like a group of people walking on the road being hit by a carriage. Could it be that you want to blame him for going out today? The only person to blame for this matter is Zhang Liang. Such a treacherous person doesn't deserve to be a magistrate of the county, much less a person. Thank you, Marquis, for speaking up for Jingchu. But it's a pity that the wicked person didn't get his retribution and is still at large. Li Jingchu wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and whispered softly. Li Zishuan said with a resolute expression, Miss Li, the net of heaven has a long arm, but it never escapes. As long as Zhang Liang is still in the Tang Empire, I firmly believe that he will be brought to justice sooner or later, because wicked people are not tolerated by the heavens. Li Jingchu's eyes flashed. After pausing for a moment, she said, I hope so. Although she said this, she didn't have much hope in her heart. Li Zishuan also knew that it was impossible to convince Li Jingchu with just words. After all, she was burdened with the hatred of her father's death. How could a few words resolve this kind of monstrous hatred? He didn't pursue the matter further and asked, Why did Miss Li insist on returning to the Li residence to burn incense for your father today? Li Jingchu said with a sorrowful expression, Today is my father's birthday. I know that if I don't come back to pay my respects, Lu Yuerong and the others won't remember this at all. I originally wanted to go to the temple to invite the 49 masters back and pay my respects for 49 days, but Lu Yuerong definitely wouldn't agree. Secondly, I'm no longer the Li family's eldest daughter. I can't even afford to donate the incense money. How could the masters in the temple be willing to pay their respects for my father? The so-called birthday of the dead referred to the birthday of the deceased. It was a custom derived from celebrating the birthday of the deceased. In terms of its nature, it was a filial and commemorative event for the ancestors by the family and the family as a unit. It was meant to be cautious and loyal to pursue the distant and bright and generous to enhance the family's glory. The birthday of the dead was first done at home and second at the temple. There was no ceremony at home. It was done on land and water. It could be done for 1 to 3 days or even 7 days. The day of completion was the official day. The most solemn ceremony was to invite the 49 monks back and pay their respects for 49 days. After the ceremony, the memorial tablets could be placed in the main hall of the temple to receive the incense. Although there was no specific time limit for the birthday of the dead, it was still mostly done by newly deceased people. Grandparents and parents had died less than 3 years ago, and their descendants had yet to mourn. Or less than 10 years ago, their descendants inherited their elders' property, business, and even titles out of gratitude for the grace of the heavens. When Li Zishuan heard this, he couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Miss Li's filial piety is commendable and admirable. I'm willing to step forward to help you regain control of the Li family. This way, Miss Li can openly celebrate your father's birthday. What do you think, Miss Li? Li Jingchu was suddenly startled. Obviously, she didn't expect Li Zishuan to propose such an idea. After hesitating for a moment, she shook her head and said, Thank you for your kindness, Marquis. However, I, Li Jingchu, only want to take back what I've lost. I want everyone to be convinced. I want the Li family to flourish in my hands. Only in this way can I comfort my father's soul in heaven. When he heard this, Li Zishuan couldn't help but raise his opinion of Li Jingchu. He nodded and said, Miss Li is very bold. Your father can be considered to have a smile in the underworld for having a daughter like you. Since Miss Li has made up your mind, I won't interfere in this matter anymore. Li Jingchu raised her head to look at Li Zishuan and said, Thank you, Marquis, for your understanding. However, Marquis made a special trip to find Jingchu today. It shouldn't be just about my father, right? If Marquis has any instructions, please don't hesitate to tell me. Jingchu will do her best to help. This question stumped Li Zishuan. He couldn't just directly tell Li Jingchu, I'm here to matchmake you, right? If he really said it out loud, he might be scolded as a lecher. After thinking for a while, Li Zishuan coughed dryly and said, Miss Li, do you know the governor of Qizhou? Li Jingchu's expression changed slightly. She paused for a moment and replied, Governor Wang is a benefactor to our Li family. He has helped Jingchu time and time again. Of course, Jingchu knows him. However, what does Marquis mean by this question? Li Zishuan faintly glanced at Li Jingchu. Her skin was white and smooth, as if it could be broken by the wind. Her pair of watery eyes were indescribably delicate and moving. It was as if the spiritual energy between heaven and earth was concentrated on her body. Even though she was wearing plain clothes, it couldn't hide the spiritual energy on her body. Not to mention other things, Li Jingchu's appearance was indeed top-notch. Coupled with her maverick personality, she could indeed be considered an outstanding female talent. It was no wonder that Wang Runbiao yearned for her day and night. To tell you the truth, Governor Wang and I are best friends. Last night, Ren Biao suddenly fell ill. He vomited 3 liters of blood and is bedridden. After a moment of silence, Li Zixuan suddenly spoke. What? Li Zixuan's words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Li Jingchu's small face to instantly turn pale. A trace of anxiety flashed in her eyes as she hurriedly asked, Marquis, why is Governor Wang bedridden? What illness does he have? Marquis, please tell me how Governor Wang is now. Towards the end, there was actually a trace of trembling in her voice. Li Zixuan couldn't help but nod secretly. From Li Jingchu's reaction, she wasn't completely devoid of feelings for Wang Renbiao. Wang Renbiao's judgment last night wasn't wrong. I heard from Renbiao's maidservant that Renbiao often drowned his sorrows in alcohol. Drinking too much alcohol can easily harm the liver and stomach. The direct reason why Renbiao vomited blood last night was because he drank too much alcohol. However, the fundamental reason is because he is overly worried and has contracted a mental illness. I know a little about medicine. I can treat Renbiao's physical illness, but I really can't do anything about his mental illness. With Renbiao's current condition, even if I can treat his physical injuries, his mental illness won't allow him to live past 35 years old. Smack! Hearing this, the teacup in Li Jingchu's hand suddenly fell to the ground. Her lively eyes instantly lost their luster and became lifeless. Her small face also became frighteningly pale. No, impossible. How can he not live past 35 years old? He is the eldest young master of the Wang family. All the famous doctors in the world will definitely be willing to treat him. His illness will definitely be cured. He will definitely be able to live a long and healthy life. Marquis, this can't be true. Hurry up and tell me this can't be true. Towards the end, Li Jingchu was already sobbing uncontrollably. She didn't know what kind of trust it was, but she had already shed all her disguises in front of Li Zixuan and revealed her truest and weakest side. She looked at Li Zixuan anxiously, as if she was praying and pleading at the same time. Li Zixuan said in a deep voice, Miss Li, Renbiao's illness is indeed very serious. I'm definitely not lying to you. Last night, when Renbiao was unconscious, he once muttered your name. I asked around about you from the others because I'm guessing that the crux of Renbiao's mental illness is very likely related to you. A hint of panic flashed across Li Jingchu's eyes. She stroked the hair in front of her forehead and said, Oh, Marquis, Jingchu is just a commoner. How can Governor Wang's mental illness be related to Jingchu? The people around the tea stall had long been sent away by Li Zixuan's guards. Now that there was no one else here, Li Zixuan decided to lay his cards on the table. He looked at Li Jingchu with a burning gaze and said in an extremely serious tone, Miss Li, I don't believe that you can't sense Renbiao's feelings for you. Today, there's only the two of us here. Can you tell me your true thoughts? Li Jingchu's body trembled and she was stunned. At first, she was shy, but then she hesitated and struggled. After a long silence, she finally opened her mouth and said, Marquis, Governor Wang's kindness to Jingchu, of course Jingchu can feel it. Jingchu is very grateful for Governor Wang's help time and time again. However, my father's death has not been avenged, and Zhang Liang is still at large. The Li family has also declined because of this. At this juncture, Jingchu really doesn't have the heart to care about personal feelings. Governor Wang's feelings are not something Jingchu can accept. When Li Zixuan heard this, he finally knew what Jingchu's misgivings were. He couldn't help but frown and say, According to what I know, in the past 6 months, Renbiao has not only mobilized the provincial government's troops, but also many Wang family's secret guards. He almost turned the entire Qizhou upside down, but he still couldn't find any traces of Zhang Liang. If Zhang Liang can't be found in 10 years, will Miss Li not get married for 10 years? If your father sees you like this in heaven, I'm afraid he will be more heartbroken than anyone else, right? Besides, can you bear to see Renbiao's body and mind deteriorate and die young because of you? Li Jingchu hugged her head and said with a pained expression, Marquis, don't force me. I don't want to let my father down, and I don't want anything to happen to Governor Wang. Please don't force me. Seeing Jingchu's pained expression, Li Zixuan also couldn't bear it. He thought for a while, then gritted his teeth and said, "Fine. Since that's the case, I will make a gentleman's agreement with Miss Li today. 2 years. Within 2 years, I will definitely help Renbiao find Zhang Liang's whereabouts and avenge your father. When the time comes, I hope Miss Li can face your true feelings." Chapter 1490. Is Marquis speaking the truth? Under the tea stall, after listening to Li Zixuan's gentleman's agreement, Li Jingchu's eyes widened in surprise as she asked. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Of course. When this matter is over and I return to Chang'an, I will report this matter to the Emperor and have the Supreme Court issue a warrant for Zhang Liang in the entire Great Tang. In addition, I will use the power of the flaming yellow Chamber of Commerce to mobilize all the merchants and commoners in the world to find Zhang Liang. As long as this person is still in the Great Tang, he will have nowhere to hide." Yes. Jingchu believes that Marquis will definitely be able to find Zhang Liang. Li Jingchu nodded excitedly. Li Zixuan heaved a sigh of relief. At this point, he had finally fulfilled his mission. "Yes, since that's the case, I hope that Miss Li can keep your promise when the time comes. Don't suppress your feelings and don't be overly cautious. Not only will you hurt yourself, but you will also hurt the people who love you. It's unfair to you and Renbiao. If your father knows this in the netherworld, he will definitely not be willing to see his daughter torment herself because of him." Hearing this, a trace of sadness flashed through Li Jingchu's eyes. After a moment of silence, she said softly, "The Marquis is right. My actions from before were indeed too selfish. In the future, I will face this feeling squarely and will not harm Provincial Governor Wang again." Li Zixuan hesitated for a moment and could not help but say seriously, "I helped you find Zhang Liang not to force you to be with Renbiao. I just want you to face your own heart and not suppress your feelings. If you really have no feelings for Renbiao, you can tell him clearly. This Marquis will not blame you for this." In the end, Li Zixuan did not want this matter to become a transaction. As the saying goes, a melon that is forcefully picked is not sweet. This was especially true for feelings. After all, two people would spend a lifetime together. Puffed. Hearing this, Li Jingchu couldn't help but smile through her tears and said, "Marquis, don't worry. Now, no one can force me to do something I don't want to do, and no one can force me to marry someone I don't want to marry. Maybe in the past, but when that pair of chopsticks pierced my father's throat, Jingchu no longer has any relatives in this world. She no longer has any scruples, and she won't be threatened by others." At this point, Li Jingchu's voice turned low. She raised her head to look at Li Zixuan and said with a serious expression, "Governor Wang holds a high position, but he treats people modestly. If it wasn't for him, the entire Li family might have suffered under Zhang Liang's evil schemes." When Jingchu was in despair, Provincial Governor Wang helped her time and time again. Humans are not plants. How can they be heartless? How could Jingchu not be touched by his affection? There's no need to wait for Zhang Liang to be executed. Jingchu is willing to marry him now. Li Zixuan was stunned when he heard this. He opened his mouth and asked in confusion, "Didn't Miss Li say that she would only agree after I capture Zhang Liang?" "That's what you said, Marquis." "Jingchu didn't say that." Li Jingchu blinked her eyes and looked a little mischievous. "Since Marquis has agreed to help Jingchu find Zhang Liang's whereabouts, what is there for Jingchu to be worried about? Even if we still can't find Zhang Liang after 2 years, at least all of us have tried our best. Marquis, what you said just now is right. Jingchu can't punish herself because of this obsession. Punish Provincial Governor Wang, and I can't let my father die with everlasting regret." After speaking, Li Jingchu opened her arms and looked up at the sky. It was as if she had been reborn and was filled with spiritual energy. Good. Li Zixuan clapped and sighed. Congratulations to Miss Li for being able to see through the obsession and get rid of the inner demons. Life is just a short few decades. While we are remembering our ancestors, we should also cherish the people in front of us. Cherish the people in front of us, Li Jingqiu murmured. Then, she looked at Li Zishuan and said, Marquis, I want to visit Provincial Governor Wang. I wonder if you can help me? Li Zishuan pursed his lips and thought to himself, isn't this change too fast? It seemed that this girl was not only soft on the inside, but also dared to love and hate on the outside. Once things were explained, her determination to pursue love was even stronger than Wang Renbiao's. These two people were really a match made in heaven. Why not? Come with me, Miss Li. Li Zishuan smiled and said seriously, however, there is one thing that you have to consider carefully. Renbiao is born in the Wang clan of Taiyuan, which is one of the top clans in the world. I don't need to tell you how serious the prejudice is. If you choose to be together with Renbiao, the difficulties and obstacles you will encounter in the future will be more than you can imagine. Have you really thought it through? Li Jingqiu was silent for a moment. Then, she said with a firm expression, there is a solution to the problem. Provincial Governor Wang is willing to lower his status and sacrifice so much for Jingqiu. Even if the road ahead is full of thorns, Jingqiu will not be afraid. I am willing to face it with him. Criticism, censure, and insult, so what? Sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy. Only after tasting it yourself can you experience it. Good. Renbiao really didn't misjudge you. Li Zishuan nodded. He couldn't help but praise Li Jingqiu greatly. This woman had too many shining points. It was no wonder that she could train a peerless hero like Wang Fangyi. Let's go. Let's go to the provincial governor's residence. If Renbiao knows that you are here to visit him, I reckon his illness will be half healed in an instant. Marquis, you're back. Why are you here? In the front courtyard of the provincial governor's residence, Lung Yuyao saw Li Zishuan walking in and quickly went up to greet him. However, when she saw Li Jingqiu behind Li Zishuan, Lung Yuyao's expression instantly turned cold. Miss Lung, I heard that Provincial Governor Wang is seriously ill. This little girl has received many favors from Provincial Governor Wang, so I specially came to visit him today. Li Jingqiu didn't shrink back or get angry because of Lung Yuyao's cold expression. She first bowed respectfully to Lung Yuyao and then spoke in a natural and unrestrained manner. Lung Yuyao's beautiful eyes narrowed. Clearly, she didn't expect Li Jingqiu's attitude to change so quickly. There was a voice in her heart telling her not to let Li Jingqiu in, but her rationality told her that Li Jingqiu could speed up the recovery of Wang Renbiao's illness and could completely dispel Wang Renbiao's heart disease. She had to let Li Jingqiu in. In the end, her rationality won over her selfishness. Lung Yuyao took a step to the side and gave way. Then, she said indifferently, Go in. Young master just woke up not long ago. Thank you, Miss Lung. Li Jingqiu looked at Lung Yuyao gratefully and then walked towards the side room. Li Zishuan thought about it and didn't want to join in the fun or be a third wheel. He looked at Lung Yuyao and wanted to say a few words of comfort. However, he realized that he couldn't because he wasn't Wang Renbiao. His comfort was pale and powerless. Marquis, you don't have to worry about Yuyao. Yuyao said before that I don't dare to have extravagant hopes of becoming young master's woman. I only hope to be able to protect young master for the rest of my life. Lung Yuyao seemed to have sensed Li Zishuan's thoughts and said softly. Li Zishuan heaved a sigh and said, Sigh, I hope all the lovers in the world can find their way together. Take good care of Renbiao and let him get better as soon as possible. The 400,000 people of Qizhou are counting on him. This marquis can't stay here for long. I have to leave in 2 days. After that, he clasped his hands behind his back and turned to go out. As for the progress of Wang Renbiao and Li Jingqiu, he was not in the mood to care about it now. Now that Li Jingqiu had untied the knot in her heart, there was no obstacle between her and Wang Renbiao. It was only a matter of time before they got together. There was no suspense. On the other hand, Li Zishuan felt that he had brought a couple together, but he had hurt the other person's heart. This made him feel guilty. Wang Renbiao, now you owe me too much. You can't die early. Otherwise, who can I find to collect the debt in the future? After leaving the provincial governor's mansion, Li Zishuan couldn't help muttering to himself. According to the official history, Not long after Wang Fengyi was born, Wang Renbiao died of illness. Wang Fengyi was as sad as an adult and was praised as a filial child at that time. Wang Fengyi's mother, Li Jingchu, was ostracized by her mother-in-law, great elder princess Tang, and moved to Fengquan Villa. Wang Fengyi was still young, so he cultivated farmland, planted trees, and repaired walls and houses with other handymen. From this, it could be seen that there was a huge gap between a child with a father and a child without a father. After returning to the inn where Old Hu and the children were staying, Li Zixuan took out the telegraph and began to send a telegram to Yinshan. The content of the telegram was very simple. It was to ask Ma Zhou to publish a notice in the Tang Daily that the Sky Chicken Brigade had stopped collecting chickens. Because of the addition of the 120,000 chickens from Qizhou, the Sky Chicken Brigade now had 120,000 chickens. In addition to the chickens collected by Li Ku and Chang Chumo's team along the way, the Sky Chicken Brigade now had no less than 650,000 chickens. This was already the limit of the number of chickens they could control. If there were more, not only would it not have a positive effect, but it would also have a negative effect and slow down the speed at which they killed the locusts. After sending the telegram, Li Zixuan breathed a sigh of relief. He did not go to the provincial governor's mansion to see how Wang Renbiao and Li Jingchu were doing. Instead, he directly went out of the city to observe the speed at which the Sky Chicken Brigade was killing locusts for the people on the farm. Now, the cooperation between the various small teams of the Sky Chicken Brigade had become extremely tacit. As a result, with the same number of chickens, the speed of killing locusts had increased by at least 30% compared to the beginning. In addition, the scale of the Sky Chicken Brigade had been greatly expanded. Li Zixuan conservatively estimated that within half a month, the Sky Chicken Brigade could eliminate more than 60 counties of locusts, which was close to 2/3 of the disaster area. The disaster relief operation was in full swing. Seeing that more and more people would be rescued, Li Zixuan did not know that danger had already arrived. Some messages about him were gradually rising in various places. At first, it was just a spark, but as more and more people spread the news, the spark began to have the momentum to start a prairie fire. The rumors had even spread to the vicinity of the capital. Don't sell the locusts to the government. Why? These locusts can be sold for a few coins. Bah! Are you stupid? 2 caddies of locusts can only be sold for 1 coin. But the Marquis of Yong bought these locusts, fried them by the chef, and sold them at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. A plate can be sold for a few hundred coins. How is this possible? The Drunken Immortal restaurant is a place that sells food and wine. Why would they sell locusts? Who would eat something like that? Why not? Have you heard of the soaring prosperity that the Drunken Immortal restaurant introduced last year? That was made with locusts. What? Soaring prosperity was made with locusts? How is this possible? Why is it not possible? I have a relative who works as a waiter at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. He said himself, then this Drunken Immortal restaurant is really black-hearted. A plate of locusts can be sold for a few hundred coins. I think so. It is not the Drunken Immortal restaurant that is black-hearted, but the Marquis of Yong'an. No wonder he is so rich. This kind of gossip was not too much. What was worse were some conspiracy theorists. In my opinion, the Marquis of Yong'an must have known about this year's locust plague long ago. Where did this come from? Why don't you think about it? Why would the Marquis of Yong'an raise hundreds of thousands of chickens in his own manor last year? Even if old Master Li is rich, he wouldn't let the Marquis of Yong'an waste his money like this, right? Think about the Sky Chicken Corps that is destroying locusts in various places. Everything seems to have been planned. Who dares to say that the Marquis of Yong'an didn't raise chickens for this year's locust plague? So what? If not for the Marquis of Yong'an and Sky Chicken Corps, who knows how many crops would have been destroyed by the locusts? That's right. Bullshit. You think the Marquis of Yong'an is doing this for the citizens? Since he knew about this year's locust plague, why didn't he tell everyone in advance? If he did, there wouldn't be a locust plague now. The Marquis of Yong'an wants to use this locust plague to make a fortune. Make money? How can locusts make money? Firstly, the drunken immortal restaurant's soaring prosperity is made with locusts. That thing is sold at a high price. A plate costs a few hundred coins. How much does the drunken immortal restaurant pay for a caddy of locusts? Back then it was 3 coins a caddy. Now it's even cheaper, 1 coin for 2 caddies. The drunken immortal restaurant used this to make a fortune last year. The drunken immortal restaurant's soaring prosperity is made with locusts? Is this for real? Ugh, I even ate soaring prosperity last year. The Marquis of Yong, and is really black-hearted. A plate of locusts is actually sold for a few hundred coins. Kiki. That's not all. Last year, the price of chicken seedlings in Chong and city skyrocketed. The Marquis of Yong and was summoned to the imperial court because of this. At that time, the Marquis of Yong and claimed that he bought so many chickens to rear a batch of fresh and tender wild chickens so that the drunken immortal restaurant could use them for a full chicken banquet this year. Now you guys have also seen that the Marquis of Yong and Sky Chicken Corps is eating locusts all over Guangzhou. When the time comes, they will definitely be plump and tender, perfect for a full chicken banquet. Won't the Marquis of Yong and make a fortune again? Now you guys should understand why the Marquis of Yong and knew that there would be a locust plague this year, but didn't tell us, right? He wants to use our food to feed the locusts and then use the locusts to feed his chickens. Now that you mention it, it's true. I previously guessed that the Marquis of Yong and might have predicted this year's locust plague last year. After all, he is the son of an immortal, but I didn't expect that there was actually a huge conspiracy behind this. Too black-hearted. I originally thought that the Marquis of Yong was a good marquis who empathized with the people. I didn't expect him to be such a selfish and black-hearted person who only cares about profits. That's right. To think that I even erected a longevity monument for him. I'm going to smash it when I get back. Chapter 1491. Bah, you ungrateful villains. How dare you slander Marquis behind his back? Do you still have a conscience? If it weren't for Marquis who created the curved plow last year, many of us would have starved to death. How could we still be alive? Rumors spread everywhere, and under the encouragement of those with intentions, these rumors became more and more perfect, more and more convincing. However, over the past year, the number of people who had received Li Zixuan's kindness numbered in the tens of millions. Even if these rumors spread in an orderly manner, as if they were true, there were still many people with a conscience who chose to believe Li Zixuan. Moreover, they were willing to stand out and speak up for Li Zixuan. When one person stood up, hundreds and thousands of people followed suit. That's right. Last year, the land on our farmstead was so dry that we couldn't plow it. If it weren't for Marquis who created the curved plow, our land would have been deserted last year. Other things aside, the Tang Dynasty dictionary compiled by Marquis allowed my child to learn how to read in just a year. If this was in the past, if my child wanted to learn how to read, he would have to worship a teacher. However, it would cost a lot to hire a teacher to teach him. Zhao Lauer is right. It's all thanks to Marquis. If it weren't for him, there wouldn't be a single person in our house. We wouldn't even be able to read De Tang daily. I don't care if Marquis knew in advance that there would be a plague of locusts this year. I only know that the locusts in our farmlands and Stone Village were eliminated by Marquis and the Sky Pheasant Brigade. Without Marquis's righteous help, our family of 7 would have had nothing to eat this year. If anyone dares to speak ill of Marquis, I, Old Goo, will fight to the death with him. Yes, if anyone dares to speak ill of Marquis, I will fight to the death with him. In the face of the fierce rumors, a large number of people quickly formed a united front to fight against those who were bewitched by the rumors and kept attacking Li Zixuan. The war between the two sides could be said to be on the verge of breaking out. In fact, if it was any other day, there would not be so many people talking bad about Li Zixuan. This was because Li Zixuan had always had a good reputation among the people. But now that the locust plague had broken out in Guangzhou, it was a time when the people were panicking. Someone had coincidentally released such a reasonable and irrefutable statement at this time. Those people who were not firm in their stance and had little contact with Lisa Schwann were naturally bewitched. Oomph. If the Marquis of Yong and had informed the people of this year's locust plague earlier, then every household would have raised over 100 chickens. Will we still have to wait for the Sky Chicken Brigade to exterminate the locusts for us? We'll destroy them ourselves. The Marquis of Yong is clearly a hypocrite. He wants to use our crops to feed the locusts and then feed the locusts to the chickens. Yes, the Marquis of Yong is a hypocrite, a selfish villain, using our crops to feed the locusts and wanting us to be grateful to him. He is a villain who only wants to make money. Bullsh asterisk T. Even if Marquis knew that there would be a locust plague this year, even if Marquis told this news to you, son Lauchi, with your little wealth, how many chickens can you afford? Don't you still have to wait for Marquis' Sky Chicken Brigade to help you exterminate the locusts? You dog thing, you really are an ingrate. A few days ago, when Marquis helped your family exterminate the locusts, you thanked him profusely. Now, at the slightest sign of trouble, you join those evil people in slandering Marquis. Your father has always been highly respected in the Sun family village. How did he give birth to such a disappointing thing like you? I think that you bastard just can't bear to see Marquis doing well. That's right, son Lauchi, you're the one who calls him bastard the most fiercely. When I return, I will tell your father and see if he doesn't beat you to death, you heartless wolf cub. Hearing this, a young man with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks couldn't help but shrink his neck, not daring to say another word. Everyone, listen to me. At this moment, a young man who looked like a scholar roared loudly. The crowd instantly quietened down. Looking closely at the scholar, who else could it be other than Yu Dehang from the Yu family village of Lantian County? Yu Dehang had originally come to Chong and city to visit an old acquaintance. When he left the city, he heard a group of commoners discussing and arguing about something. He didn't think much of it first, but after hearing the contents of the discussion and argument, he instantly realized that the situation was not normal. Thus, he hurriedly stopped in his tracks, intending to dispel the rumors and protect Lisa Schwann's reputation. Fellow villagers, please don't misbelieve the rumors, saying that the Marquis of Yong is using the commoners' crops to feed the locusts is pure nonsense. More than 90% of us have received favors from Marquis. As humans, we cannot forget our roots, and even more so, we cannot be ungrateful. Earlier, I heard someone scolding the Marquis for not publicizing the locust plague's language to the public so that everyone could be prepared. Let's not talk about whether or not Marquis knew that there would be a locust plague this year. Even if he did, would you believe it if Marquis told you in advance? And even if you did, what could you do? Go buy chicken seedlings? It's not like you don't know the price of chicken seedlings in Chong and City last year. How much money can the villagers have? Even if each of you were to exhaust all your wealth, how many chickens can you raise? Besides, think about it carefully. If you knew that there would be a locust plague this year, would your first reaction be to buy chicken seedlings? No, you would definitely panic. That is to say, even if Marquis knew that there would be a locust plague this year and told us in advance, it would be of no use. On the contrary, it would cause a collective panic among the millions of citizens of Great Tang. If that was the case, we would have already panicked before the locust plague today. Yu Dehang's meticulous analysis calmed the restless commoners down. After he finished speaking, the commoners couldn't help but whisper among themselves, "Who is that scholar? I know him. He is Scholar Yu from the Yu family manor of Lantian County. Last year, when the Chui family caused a ruckus, he was almost beheaded by the Chui family's guards. Thankfully, Marquis arrived in time to save him. So he is from Lantian County. No wonder he would speak up for the Marquis of Yongin, but what he said makes sense. Even if Marquis told us in advance that there would be a locust plague this year, it would still be useless. Based on the price of chicken seedlings in Chong and City last year, even if we used all our money to buy chickens, we would only be able to buy 60 to 70 of them. It is not enough. That's right. It seems like the Marquis of Yong really cares about his commoners. In order to help us exterminate the locusts, he specially bought tens of thousands of chickens. I heard that last year, Marquis spent over 10,000 strings of cash just to buy chicken seedlings. We have wrongly blamed Marquis. Hey, then what about the drunken immortal restaurants soaring to meteoric success? Just as some of the commoners were about to change their minds, a gloomy voice suddenly sounded out from the crowd. Yu Dehang frowned. After searching for a long time, he couldn't find the person who spoke. This made him angry. That's right. The Marquis of Yong and bought locusts at a low price from us and sold them at a high price at the drunken immortal restaurant. What about this matter? That gloomy voice successfully attracted the attention of the commoners. Immediately, a large man with a full beard shouted out. Yu Dehang's expression didn't change, but his mind was racing. A moment later, he took a step forward and looked at the large man and asked, "This uncle, this you will say something disrespectful. The drunken immortal restaurants soaring to meteoric success is a bit expensive, but have you eaten it before? Or have the drunken immortal restaurant forced you to eat it?" That large man's face turned red and his imposing manner weakened. He opened his mouth and said, No, that soaring to meteoric success is so expensive. How could I be willing to eat it? Yu Dehang nodded and said, That's the logic. Although the price of soaring to meteoric success is expensive, but what does that have to do with us commoners? The drunken immortal restaurant's dishes were originally prepared for those rich people. Not to mention the drunken immortal restaurant. The other restaurants in Chong and City also don't have cheap dishes. Why don't you go and talk about it? Why only talk about the drunken immortal restaurant? The drunken immortal restaurant is open for business. First, they don't force people to buy or sell. Second, they don't sell shoddy goods. Those who have been to the drunken immortal restaurant all feel that it is worth it. They don't feel that soaring to meteoric success is expensive. So what qualifications do we have to talk about it? After Yu Dehang said this, the commoners couldn't help but nod their heads. Seeing this, Yu Dehang struck while the iron was hot and continued. In addition, have you heard of locusts being sold for money? No. Now Marquis is willing to buy locusts from everyone. Although the price is a bit cheaper, a family of 4 can catch locusts for a day. If they sell it to Marquis, they should be able to get at least 10 copper coins, right? These 10 copper coins can be exchanged for 3 to 4 stones of grain. Where else can you find such a good thing? This is originally a good thing for all of you in Marquis. Some of you have mistakenly believed in slanderous words, thinking that Marquis is making black-hearted money. Where's your conscience? Enlightening to the deaf. Yu Dehang's 2 reasonable and well-founded words could be said to be enlightening to the deaf. Hearing this, the commoners who had been bewitched earlier all blushed and lowered their heads in shame, not daring to say another word. Scholar Yu is right. This is originally a good thing, but some people are insatiable. They think that the benefits they get are too little. These bastards don't even think about it. Without Marquis, what kind of life would he be living now? He would probably be starving to death. That's right. Since we are indebted to Marquis, we have no reason to slander Marquis. If anyone dares to say anything bad about Marquis, I will beat them to death, even if I have to risk my life. Seeing that the commoners had finally come to their senses, Yu Dehang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At this moment, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a mysterious person wearing a bamboo hat in the crowd retreating and quickly walking away. Yu Dehang's intuition told him that there was something wrong with that person. He wanted to chase after him, but before he could take 2 steps, the mysterious person had disappeared. Yu Dehang's heart sank. He felt that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Otherwise, why would there be so many rumors about Li Zixuan out of the blue? There's no smoke without fire. There must be something fishy about this. I have to go to Yanwang College and tell Mr. Li Gang about this. I'm afraid that someone is trying to harm Marquis. Yu Dehang's eyes narrowed. Almost in an instant, he had made up his mind to go to Yanwang College. Hey, kid, you've ruined Grandpa's plans. Where else do you want to go? After leaving the official road outside Chong and City, Yu Dehang stepped onto the cement road to Yun Mountain. When she went around a mountain, 2 masked men in black suddenly appeared in front of Yu Dehang. One of them stepped forward and directly blocked Yu Dehang's path and said, "Who are you? What do you want?" Yu Dehang's expression changed, and his heart was in his throat. His mind was racing, but he didn't forget to scan his surroundings. There were hills on both sides, so it wasn't convenient for him to escape. If he wanted to escape, he could only run backward. Thinking of this, Yu Dehang took half a step back. "Hee, we are the ones who want your life. What do you think we want?" The man in black laughed sinisterly. He didn't seem to move, but a cold dagger suddenly appeared in his hand. These two people actually wanted to kill Yu Dehang directly. Yu Dehang's heart was instantly nervous to the extreme, but at the critical moment, Yu Dehang forced himself to calm down with strong willpower. He said without changing his expression, "There must be a reason to kill, right? I have no grudges with you. Why do you want to kill me?" He wanted to stall for time because this cement road wasn't unfrequented. There were often farmers who were going to Chang and city to attend the market passing by here. He wanted to wait for reinforcements. The man in black opposite him seemed to have seen through Yu Dehang's thoughts. He sneered and said, "If you want to blame it on you for being a busybody. I'll send you to hell today. You can continue to be a busybody when you reach the netherworld." After saying that, the man in black flew out and stabbed Yu Dehang's throat with a sharp dagger. The moment the black-clothed man spoke, Yu Dehang was already prepared to escape. So almost at the same time the black-clothed man made his move, Yu Dehang had already finished turning around. At this moment, she was using all her strength to sprint desperately. Bam! Ouch! Yu Dehang was fast, but someone was faster than him. When he turned around, the other man in black had already flashed behind him. Yu Dehang turned around and ran, and directly bumped into the man in black. Sadly, he felt that he had bumped into an iron wall. Then, without any suspense, he was directly shaken to the ground. Yu Dehang hurriedly got up from the ground. Before the dagger the other man in black was about to pierce his throat, he suddenly pointed at the man in black and said loudly, "You are the man wearing a bamboo hat outside Chang in city just now. Why did you frame Marquis? Who ordered you to do this?" When a man in black heard this, his hand movements couldn't help but stagnate. Then he sneered and said, "Kid, do you know that the more you know, the faster you'll die? Oomph. Today, I'll send you to hell no matter what. Save your questions for the king of hell." After saying that, the man in black sneered and stabbed the dagger directly at Yu Dehang's heart. "It's over. This time, it's really over." Yu Dehang closed his eyes in despair. He was now sure that this man in black was the one who wanted to harm Li Zixuan. But so what if he knew? He was going to die soon. It's not that he didn't want to fight back, but the difference in strength was too great. At this moment, hey, isn't that scholar you? Bastard. Someone actually dares to commit murder in Lantian County. Boss, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, quickly attack for me. Chapter 1492. Now that the living conditions of the people in Lantian County had improved, many farmers who had some spare cash started to renovate their houses. After all, this was an ancient nation. The people still had a very deep sense of home in their hearts. The first thing they did when they had money was to improve their living conditions. This was universal whether it was in modern times or ancient times. Second Master Liu was no exception. As early as 2 months ago, the construction of their house had already started. Just recently, Second Master Liu brought his 7 sons into the city to buy some furniture like tables and cabinets. On the way home, he happened to see Dehang being surrounded by 2 masked men. At the critical moment, Second Master Liu hurriedly asked his 7 sons to help. Seeing that someone had come to intervene, the man in black was stunned at first. Then, he revealed a ruthless expression and held the dagger at an even faster speed to cut Yu Dehang's throat. Bang! Seeing this, Second Master Liu's eldest son shouted, picked up a stool, and threw it in the direction of the assassin in black. It was just that the direction of his stool should hit Yu Dehang first, and then the assassin in black. "Scholar, you get down quickly." Second Master Lu's eldest son also understood this problem, so he shouted and ran straight toward Yu Dehang without stopping. As for Second Master Lu's other sons, they were already less than 3 feet away from Yu Dehang. At the moment of life and death, the reinforcements had finally arrived. Yu Dehang's desire to live was still very strong. Hearing the shout behind her, Yu Dehang quickly leaned back and then fell straight to the ground. Huff, huff, huff. The stool spun rapidly in the air, and with a whistling sound, it smashed toward the assassin in Black's face. Oof. Damn it. Although the assassin knew kung fu, he would definitely not feel good if the stool hit him. He had no choice but to temporarily give up on Yu Dehang and quickly retreat. In such a short time, the 7 brothers of the Lu family had already surrounded Yu Dehang and shielded her behind them. Retreat. The 2 black-clothed assassins looked at each other and spat out the word retreat. Then, without prior agreement, they flew to the hillsides on both sides. It was not that they could not beat them, but the Lu brothers were all tall and strong. If they really fought, they could win with their kung fu, but it would inevitably take some time. If other people passed by during this time, it would be difficult for them to escape. Ouch! It hurt so much. Yu Dehang, who was lying on the ground, couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw the assassins escape from the 2 sides of the hill. However, a sharp pain came from the back of his head. He crawled up from the ground and cried out while rubbing his head. It wasn't a big deal when he rubbed it, but he immediately felt a sticky and wet sensation on his palm. He brought his hand to his eyes and saw that it was covered in blood. Hiss! Yu Dehang couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He didn't expect that the fall just now would cause the back of his head to bleed. Scholar Yu, are you all right? Second Master Lu's eldest son asked aloud. I'm fine. Thank you, Second Master Lu and the uncles, for your help. Otherwise, Dehang would have died today. Yu Dehang hurriedly bowed to the few of them and thanked them solemnly. Hey, Scholar Yu, who did you offend? Why would anyone want to kill you? Second Master Lu squinted and asked. Second Master, I don't know them, but one of them seems to be a mysterious person I met just now outside the city. Yu Dehang rubbed his head and explained briefly. At this moment, he remembered the important matter and quickly said, I don't have time to explain to you. I have to go to the academy to find Mr. Li Gang as soon as possible. Someone wants to harm Marquis. What? Someone wants to harm young master? Second Master Lu's eyes immediately widened when he heard this. He wasn't someone who didn't know the severity of the situation. Yu Dehang was just an ordinary scholar from the countryside. Logically speaking, he wouldn't offend anyone. But now, Yu Dehang was being chased by 2 masked men in black. Therefore, when Second Master Lu heard Yu Dehang say that someone wanted to harm Li Zixuan, he immediately realized the severity of the situation. So, he hurriedly shouted to his sons beside him. Quick, you guys, quickly escort Scholar Yu to the academy, in case he gets into danger again. One of the young men couldn't help but ask, Father, what about this cart of things? Second Master Lu said angrily, What things? What time is it now? Who has the time to care about these things? Quickly escort Scholar Yu to the academy. Yes, 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 the young man hurriedly said. Yu Dehang clasped his hands gratefully at Second Master Lu and said, Thank you, Second Master. I'll explain the details to Second Master later. Then, without waiting for Second Master Lu's response, Yu Dehang turned and left. The group of 8 rushed towards the Cloud Mountain as fast as they could. Teacher Wenji, there are a few villagers outside the academy. They say that they have an important matter to discuss with you. Li Gang was in the office going through the final exam questions that had been drafted by the various departments. At this moment, Mo Zhong's voice sounded from outside the door. Come in. Li Gang frowned. After Mo Zhong pushed the door open and entered, Li Gang asked, Did the villagers say what important matter it is? Mo Zhong clasped his hands and said no, but there's a young man named Yu Dehang among them. Last year, when the people caused havoc in the Chui family, the Yamacho even saved his life. Today, his head is still bleeding. I think it really is an urgent matter. Bleeding? Li Gang's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly got up and said, "Quickly, follow me outside to take a look." With that, the old man took the lead and walked out of the house. "Are you Dehang?" Mo Zhong. Quickly send him to the medical hall for treatment. At the entrance of the academy, Li Gang immediately saw a young man clutching his head with his hands covered in blood. The old man hurriedly ordered Mo Zhong, "Teacher Wenji, don't worry about my injury. I have something very urgent to tell you. Please let's talk in private." Yu Dehang heard and hurriedly waved his hand. Li Gang frowned and said, "What can be more important than your life? It won't be too late to talk about it after your injury is treated." Yu Dehang's figure was a little staggered. It was probably the after effects of excessive blood loss. He steadied himself and said, No. Teacher Wenji, someone wants to harm Marquis." "What?" "Quickly. Mo Zhong. Quickly help him inside." Mo Yun, quickly go to the medical hall and ask Dr. Qin and Dr. Wang to return to the academy. Li Gang's expression changed suddenly, and then he said decisively, "Yes." Mo Zhong and Mo Yun hurriedly accepted the order. That's what happened. If Second Master Liu and the others hadn't arrived in time, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to reach the academy. A quarter of an hour later, in Li Gang's office, Yu Dehang relied on his strong willpower to resist fainting. He told Li Gang about what he heard outside Chong in city this morning and the assassination on the way to Lian Mountain. He told Li Gang, Yin Silu, Mo Huai, Ma Zhou, and Su Hongji who came after hearing the news. After saying that, Yu Dehang finally couldn't take it anymore and was about to fall to the ground. Fortunately, Second Master Liu's eldest son was quick to catch him. Li Gang hurriedly said, "Quickly, Mo Zhong, help Yu Dehang down with the Liu brothers. First, do some bandaging and wait for Dr. Wang and Dr. Qin to come back." "Yes." Teacher Wenji, Mo Zhong led the Liu brothers to help Yu Dehang out. Inside the room, Li Gang's expression had become extremely grim. He said angrily, "Yamacho led hundreds of thousands of chickens in Lantian County to go to the various counties in Guangzhou to exterminate locusts. I didn't expect that someone would use this as an excuse to maliciously slander them. They're really distorting the truth and devoid of humanity. I'm afraid this matter isn't that simple." Mo Huai, who had been sitting next to him without saying a word, said with a serious expression, "All signs point to someone behind this, wanting to incite the people to cause trouble. They chose to slander Yamacho and incite public anger. Unexpectedly, the rumors they spread were exposed one by Yu Dehang, so they flew into a rage out of humiliation and wanted to silence him." Yin Silu frowned and said, "The question is, who would choose to spread rumors to slander Yamacho at this time? What good would it do them?" Ma Zhou pondered for a moment and said, "Yamacho doesn't attend court all year round and rarely makes enemies in the court. Even if they do have enemies, those people don't seem to be so bold. Mr. Mo is right. I'm afraid this matter isn't as simple as it seems on the surface." The gang had calmed down by now. He frowned and said, "In your opinion, what should we do now?" Mo Huai pondered for a moment and said, "No matter what the true purpose of those people is, they must have come with ill intentions. The Academy should immediately clarify those rumors through Tang daily to prevent more people from being confused and bewitched by the rumors." Li Gang nodded and said, "I'll write an article to refute Yamacho according to those rumors one by one. Not only me, but Ma Zhou, you also have to write. In addition, make arrangements for Tang daily as soon as possible. Leave some places for us in tomorrow's newspaper." Ma Zhou cupped his hands and said, "Yes." "Mr. Wenji, should we inform Yamacho of this matter through the telegraph?" Seeing that the plan was set, Su Hongji suddenly asked. The room instantly quieted down. After a moment of silence, Li Gang said, "No need. Yamacho has rushed thousands of miles to provide disaster relief. It's not good to be distracted at this time. In addition to clarifying the rumors, I'll also write a report to His Majesty and let His Majesty send people to thoroughly investigate who is spreading the rumors." Su Hongji nodded and said, "Mr. Wenji has thought it through thoroughly. I have no objections." I have no objections either. I have no objections either. Mo Huai frowned. He felt that there was a bigger conspiracy behind this matter, but he had no evidence and could only agree. I have no objections either. Seeing this, Li Gang nodded and said, "Good. Since no one has any objections, let's proceed according to the plan." In addition, those criminals dared to commit murder in broad daylight. This means that Lantian County is not peaceful today. Inform all the students not to leave the academy for the time being. Yes, Dragon Head, we have someone outside Chong and City who instigated the people to be sabotaged by a scholar. He brought people to ambush the scholar on his way home, but they were seen by passers-by and the ambush failed. In a dark thatched cottage in a village in Xinfeng County, a warrior in a tight suit walked in and bowed to a mysterious person wearing a green mask with fangs. "Oomph! Trash!" A cracked and hoarse voice came from under the ferocious-looking mask. The warrior could not help but shudder. The mysterious man continued, "Have their identities been exposed?" "No." The warrior in tight suit bowed and replied. The room fell into a short silence. After a while, the mysterious person said, "We'll spare their lives for now. They can be spared the death penalty, but they can't escape punishment. Cut a tendon in each of their hands." "Yes." The warrior in tight suit trembled and left to carry out the order. Dragon Head, it seems that this Li Zexuan has the people's hearts. At this time, a ghostly figure walked out from the darkness of the room. Upon closer inspection, there was a sinister scar above his eyebrows. He looked like an evil spirit from hell. He said in a gloomy voice, "Umph, the more he gets, the more I will make him lose. Only when he has nothing and is notorious will he be completely useful to me. This is only the first step. The more exciting part is yet to come." Speaking of this, the masked man's voice had a trace of fanaticism. "Have you got the formula for the gunpowder?" The scarred man replied, "No. That Li Zexuan is cunning and ruthless. There is no place in the Strange Taste Pavilion to produce gunpowder, and no one knows the complete formula. Now we can only use that thing as a substitute. Although it's a little weak, it should be enough. Gunpowder. Logically speaking, only Li Zexuan and Li Er knew about gunpowder. Who would have thought that these two people knew about gunpowder?" The so-called Dragon Head nodded and said, That's the only way. Tell the people below to be careful. Don't cause any unnecessary trouble. Don't be like that idiot Jean Wanfu, carelessly ruining this Dragon Head's plans." "Don't worry, Dragon Head. I will tell the people below to be careful," the scarred man replied. The mysterious Dragon Head nodded and said after a moment of silence, "Tomorrow, release another rumor. I like to see how Li Shimin will react when he finds out." Dragon Head, isn't it a little too early? The scarred man asked hesitantly. Hee, it's not early. It's not early. The mysterious Dragon Head smiled and said, "We need to make the Tang Empire fall into chaos as soon as possible. Only then can we do things better. This is called taking advantage of the situation. Tell the Earth Emanations group to get ready. Once the time is right, we will act immediately." "Yes, Dragon Head. Dragon Head is wise." The warrior in tight suit bowed and left. Only the Dragon Head was left in the room. With his hands behind his back, he looked in the direction of the Southwest Imperial Palace and sneered twice. Then he muttered, "The show is about to start. Li Shimming, oh Li Shimming, I want you to become my prisoner." Chapter 1493. Your Majesty, Mr. Li Gang of Yanhuang College has sent a memorial. Afternoon, evening. Zhao Song brought a memorial to the Ganlu Hall and bowed to Li Er, who was sitting at the head of the table. Although Li Gang did not hold any position in the imperial court, the old man was well-versed in both ancient and modern times. He had been the teacher of two crown princes, Yang Yong and Li Jiansheng. Last year, he had almost become Li Chengxian's teacher. The old man was an influential figure in the literary world of the Great Tang. Although he was not in the imperial court, he still had the authority to listen to memorials. Li Gang's memorial? Lier had just finished reviewing the memorial. Confused, he hurriedly said, "Hurry and present it." Lier had a keen sense of smell and sensed that something might have happened at the academy. Otherwise, Li Gang would not have sent him a memorial. Here, Zhao Song stepped forward and handed the memorial to Lier. Lier opened it and began to carefully read it. But the more he read, the deeper his frown became. Around 7 minutes later, Lier closed the memorial, his face ashen. Truly, demons appear in troubled times. It hasn't even been 10 days since the plague of locusts began, but some people are already unable to hold themselves back. Zhao Song had been listening in on the side, confused. He hurriedly said, "This old servant is here. Take a look as well." Lier threw the memorial to Zhao Song. Zhao Song nimbly caught it, but before he could take a closer look, Lier coldly ordered, "Pass on the decree to Li Junxian. Order the cavalry to immediately investigate who is spreading rumors and inciting the people. Remember, there is definitely more than one person spreading rumors. You must be careful. It would be best if you could follow the clues and catch the mastermind. To dare to ambush and kill the people in broad daylight, the mastermind must be planning something big." At this moment, Zhao Song had already skimmed through the contents of the memorial. His heart was in turmoil. Spreading rumors, inciting public anger, and silencing witnesses. All these signs indicated that there was a hidden dark force in the empire that was ready to make a move. It cannot be ignored. This old servant obeys the decree. Zhao Song bowed and accepted the order, then hurriedly retreated. In the main hall, Li Erdwan sat on the dragon couch. The corners of his mouth suddenly curled into an icy smile, only to hear him muttering to himself, "Come. If you want to come together. Using this chance, we will catch all of you demons and monsters hiding in the shadows in one fell swoop. Only then can we rest at ease and fight to the death with the Turks." The rumors that slandered Li Zishuan did not stop at the wise ones. Instead, they spread very quickly among the people. Basically, with Chang and as the center, they gradually spread outwards. It was estimated that in a few days, it would reach Li Zishuan's current location, Yong County in Chizhou. Marquis Yong. The Marquis is such a benevolent Marquis. Of the Marquis, such a benevolent person. How can such a benevolent person is? The next day, after reading the article written by Li Gang in the Tang Daily, the citizens of Chang and could not help but discuss it. Yes, Marquis Yong, and cares about the people of the world. Marquis Yong, and is leading the Sky Pheasant Brigade to provide disaster relief. No matter what, he should not be subject to such baseless slander and accusations. Marquis Yong said that he did not know if Marquis had predicted this year's locust plague last year. But even if Marquis knew in advance, Marquis Yong felt that Marquis should not have made it public. That would cause chaos in the country. The people would not be in the mood to farm, causing thousands of people to lose their homes. That's right. If we had known that there would be a locust plague this year, we would not have farmed at the beginning of the year. Now, we can only wait for the food to run out and starve to death. But although we have encountered a locust plague recently, with the help of the Sky Pheasant Brigade, most of the crops in the fields were saved. We should be grateful to Marquis. Li Gang had personally written an article to refute Li Zishuan's rumors. It was of some use, but that was all. Hey, Marquis Li Gang is the Yamacho of Yanhuang College, and Marquis Yong is the Yamacho of Yanhuang College. He is protecting Marquis Yong, and someone in the crowd said in a sinister voice. Immediately, the rhythm was set in motion. That's right, Mr. Li Gang is openly protecting Marquis Yong. Shameless. Marquis Yong abandoned his scholarly integrity for his own selfish reasons. He is a disgrace to us scholars. Bah, you dare insult Marquis Yong and Marquis Li Gang? You pedantic Confucians are the ones who have no sense of shame. Unlike yesterday, there were many more scholars in Li Zishuan's group. This was not strange. Li Zishuan had created the engineering school, and after a year of development, the engineering school had gradually matured. The members of the engineering school were getting louder and louder in the Great Tang. Those lofty and unshakable Confucians naturally hated Li Zishuan. Now that many people were criticizing Li Zishuan, these Confucians naturally would not let go of this chance to hit him while he was down. The two sides quickly began to quarrel, and it wasn't long before chaos ensued. Hey, it is said that this plague of locusts is heaven's punishment for the son of heaven for murdering his brother and imprisoning his father. 2 days ago, when the dog ate the son, Taoist Li Chunfeng of the Imperial Historian Bureau wrote to His Majesty that this represented heaven's warning to the Son of Heaven. If the Son of Heaven does not practice benevolence and repent for his past mistakes, heaven will send down an even greater calamity. After a long while, someone sinisterly said. The crowd immediately fell silent. After all, it was fine to talk about officials, but if they were talking about the emperor, they had to be careful. What? There's such a thing? After a few moments of silence, someone mustered up the courage to exclaim, Hey, how can it be fake? I heard that Li Chunfeng was even beaten 50 times by His Majesty because of this. 50 strikes. It seems that Li Chunfeng's predictions were spot on. Heaven has indeed sent down an even greater calamity, a plague of locusts. Such a large plague was probably extremely rare, even in the previous dynasty. Doesn't that mean that His Majesty did not listen to Taoist Li Chunfeng's advice and did not practice benevolence or repent sincerely? With an emperor who killed his brother, imprisoned his father, and infuriated the heavens, our lives are going to be miserable. The Imperial Army is here. Run. Suddenly, someone pointed at a group of armored soldiers that suddenly appeared on the east side of the street and exclaimed, It's not the Imperial Army, it's 100 riders. The sharp-eyed people recognized the identity of the group of soldiers. Instantly, the group of people who were still discussing fervently scattered like birds and beasts, escaping in all directions. After all, most of them were talking about Li just now. It was impossible for them not to feel guilty. At the same time, similar rumors were circulating in many places. In the end, this rumor gradually became more and more convincing. It was as if they had seen it with their own eyes. In this rumor, there was a very innocent person who was implicated even though he was lying down. This person was Li Chunfeng. Father, are the rumors on the streets true? Did His Majesty really allow someone to beat you 50 times? In Yanwang College, Li Yin took the opportunity to find Li Chunfeng, who was arranging the astrological chart at his office during lunch. He asked worriedly, What nonsense are you talking about? Son, what are you talking about? Li Chunfeng was confused. He could not figure out what was going on. Dad, don't hide it from me. I heard it from the Annie who was sweeping the floor of the teaching building. Li Yin thought that Li Chunfeng was deliberately hiding it from him. He could not help but feel helpless. Hide it from you? What did I hide it from you? Also, what did the Annie say? Li Chunfeng frowned. Li Yin saw that Li Chunfeng was going to play dumb, so he said, Dad, the Annie said that when the heavenly dog devoured the sun more than a month ago, you wrote to His Majesty that it represented God's warning to the emperor. If the emperor did not practice benevolence and repent for the mistakes he made in the past, God would send an even greater disaster. Because of this, you were beaten 50 times by His Majesty. Dad, is this true? Nonsense. Li Chunfeng's expression changed when he heard this. He stood up and looked at Li Yin. He asked sternly, Son, where did these rumors come from? Seeing his father's big reaction, Li Yin quickly said seriously, Father, these words were heard by the sweeping auntie outside the academy. And she said that now many people in Chang and city are saying that His Majesty got the throne unjustly and has no intention of repentance. So your prophecy is right. Heaven has sent a bigger disaster, which is the plague of locusts this time. Li Chunfeng's face darkened. He gritted his teeth and said angrily, This is outrageous. This is outrageous. These people are not only audacious, they even push me into the fire. No, I have to go to the palace and explain this to His Majesty. Dad, Since you did not do this, why do you have to go to the palace? Li Yin quickly asked. Li Chunfeng looked at his son and said, as the saying goes, gossip is a fearful thing. Moreover, this matter was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Someone probably wanted to incite the common people to do such a heresy and immoral thing. You stay in the school. I will go to Chang'an City. Shut up, you ungrateful people. His Majesty loves the people like his own children. Marquis Yong, and went thousands of miles to destroy the locusts for the sake of the people. Not only are you ungrateful, you are even speaking ill of His Majesty and Marquis Yong and behind their backs. Are you even human? In Chang'an City, a beautiful young lady shouted angrily at 3 to 5 people. Hey, where did this little girl come from? She actually doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and is pointing fingers here. A rascally-looking young man was sizing up the little girl with a malicious gaze. The corner of his mouth was currently curled into a wretched smile. That's right, you're such an insensible little girl. Not only did you eavesdrop on us, you even dare to criticize us. Come, let me teach you how to behave. Another young man, who was slightly fatter, agreed. Then he stretched out his hand to grab the young lady. Bastard, I am Li Yu. Don't you dare touch me. The young lady took 2 steps back and shouted angrily. That's right, she was Li Yu. Little Yu came to Chang'an City today to collect literature. Yesterday, when she heard that someone was slandering Li Zishuan, she was very angry. When she found out that Li Gang and Ma Zhou had written an article to refute Li Zishuan's rumors in the Tang Daily, she wanted to see the reaction of the people. As for why she chose to come to Chang'an City and not Lantian County, it was mainly because no matter what happened outside, the people of Lantian County were always grateful and supportive of Li Zishuan. Therefore, she came to Chang'an City to collect literature. When she came to Chang'an City, she found that the number of people slandering Li Zishuan did not decrease because of Li Gang and Ma Zhou's articles. Instead, there were more of them. This was because, under the guidance of some people, most of the people thought that Li Gang, Ma Zhou, and Li Zishuan were all jackals of the same tribe. Naturally, their words were not convincing. Because of this, little Yu had already reprimanded several groups of people today. With her glib tongue and smart mind, those who were reprimanded by her were all ashamed and said that they did not dare to slander Li Zishuan anymore. When she was riding on the crest of success, little Yu did not expect to meet a tough nut. Li Yu, you're the gold medal reporter of Tang Daily? The young man who spoke first said with his eyes lit up. Oomph. How is it? Are you scared? Seeing the other party's surprised face, Li Yu said proudly. Hee. Scared. Of course I'm scared. Hee. Come with me, the gold medal reporter of Tang Daily. I should be able to sell you for a good price. The young man smiled wretchedly and then pounced on Li Yu. How dare you? What are you doing? I'm going to call for help. Help! Li Yu reacted quickly and dodged the young man's bear hug. She said in shock and anger, and then shouted loudly. Hee. Shout. Even if you shout until your throat is broken, no one will come to save you. As the young man spoke, he pounced on Li Yu again. The other people also surrounded Li Yu from the front and back. They were in an alley between 2 old houses in the south of the city. Usually, people would not pass by here. Stop! How dare you act so presumptuously in broad daylight? Coincidentally, at this moment, a loud shout came from the alley. A middle-aged man in a Taoist robe suddenly shouted, Where did you come from? How dare you meddle in our business? Brothers, let's go. The young man was furious that someone had ruined his plan. He waved his hand, and a few of them ran towards the Taoist priest. Taoist priest Li, be careful. Seeing that someone had come to save her, especially someone she knew, Li Yu was relieved. However, she was worried again and could not help but shout loudly. That Taoist priest was none other than the unlucky Li Chunfeng. Li Chunfeng and Li Yu were caught in the crossfire, while Li Chunfeng was like a fish swimming in shallow water. Chapter 1494. Although Li Chunfeng was not a Taoist who specialized in combat, He had been cultivating his chi for a long time. His physique and reaction speed were better than the average person's. In comparison, the hooligans were worried that they would attract the attention of the patrolling marquis, so they did not bother him too much. After a short fight, Li Chunfeng and Li Yu escaped from the deserted alley. Taoist Li, why are you in Chang'an City? Li Yu, who had just survived a disaster, did not need a few days to recover like the other weak girls. She had a big heart, and in just a short while, she was back to her usual lively self. She looked at Li Chunfeng and asked. Li Chunfeng replied, I need to go to the palace for something. Miss Li Yu, you are a girl, and you are alone. It is best that you don't do such dangerous things alone in the future. So what if I'm a girl? Li Yu rolled her eyes and mumbled softly. She didn't argue with Li Chunfeng because he had just saved her life. If it was someone else, she wouldn't have been so polite. Huh, Taoist Li, are you going to the palace to meet the emperor because of those rumors? Suddenly, Li Yu rolled her eyes and smiled. Ha, Taoist Li, you don't have to worry. The emperor is a wise man, and he knows what is right and what is wrong. Why would he believe those rumors? Li Chunfeng looked at Li Yu and said in a serious tone, I don't care about my own reputation, but I will not allow someone to use my name to do such a thing. If I don't clear the rumors soon, I will not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Stealing the sky and changing the sun? Taoist Li, have you also noticed that someone behind these rumors is trying to take advantage of this opportunity to create trouble? Li Yu raised her eyebrows in surprise when she heard this. Li Chunfeng nodded solemnly. Although the locust plague has engulfed the entire Guangzhou area, the imperial court has been actively helping the people. The people are far from being in dire straits, and there will not be so many people slandering the emperor and the Marquis of Yong. If there is no one behind this, I will not believe it. Taoist Li, you are right. Shall I go to the palace with you? I've also been investigating the source of these rumors these past few days. It's a good opportunity to report to His Majesty. Li thought for a moment and looked up at Li Chunfeng. Yes, let's go. Li was the top reporter of the Tang Daily. She had the right to go to the emperor's palace and have an audience with the emperor. Therefore, Li Chunfeng did not reject her request. The two of them walked towards the imperial palace in the north. Hall Master, why don't we chase after them? If we really fight, that Taoist priest is definitely no match for us. After Li Yu and Li Chunfeng left, the 5 hooligans walked out. One of them looked at the direction where Li Yu left and asked in confusion. The slightly plump young man frowned and said, If we do our best, we can definitely keep both of them here. But if the commotion is too big, it will definitely attract the attention of the patrolling Marshal Marquis. At that time, how will we escape? Before doing anything, don't forget that we are in Chang'an City. If something happens and the Dragonhead blames us, none of us can bear the responsibility. The other 4 people quickly cupped their fists and said, Yes, Hall Master. The slightly plump young man nodded and said with a look of pity, But it's a pity that we didn't manage to catch Li Yu. That girl spends all her time in the workshop of Strange Interest Pavilion. She must know a lot of secrets there. If we can catch her alive, it will be a great achievement. A young man with a protruding mouth and ape-like cheeks came forward and said with a fawning face, Hall Master, Li will definitely return to Lantian County before nightfall. Why don't we set up an ambush on our way back and kidnap her? The so-called Hall Master heard this and was tempted. However, he immediately shook his head and said, That's not right. A few days ago, Third Brother ambushed a scholar in Lantian County. After he failed, the Dragonhead severed the tendons in his hand. The Dragonhead strictly ordered us not to cause any trouble near Chang'an City. If we don't have absolute confidence, we can't do anything. Yes. Why are there so many people in front? Could it be that there's a commotion? When they reached Vermilion Bird Avenue, Li Yu saw that there were many people in front of them. She was excited and curious. Li Chunfeng frowned and said, Let's get down to business. Miss Li Yu, let's go to the palace first. Li Yu pouted and mumbled, Master Li, we'll reach the palace after passing through Vermilion Bird Avenue. There's no rush. Let's go and see what's going on. It won't take too much time. As she spoke, She tugged at Li Chunfeng's sleeve and looked at him pleadingly. Li Chunfeng sighed helplessly and said, "Forget it. Let's go and see. But once we're done, we'll have to go to the palace immediately." "Okay." Li Yu quickly nodded in agreement. The two of them walked towards a crowd in front of them. When they got closer, they realized that there were more people than they thought. They could not squeeze in at all. "Hey, uncle, what's inside?" Li Yu stood on her tiptoes impatiently. However, she could not see anything. She had no choice but to ask the middle-aged man in front of her. "Uncle? Little girl, do I look that old to you?" The man turned around, pointed at his face, and said in disbelief. Li Yu was so angry that she almost suffered an internal injury. But in order to know what was going on in the crowd, she could only force a smile on her face. She said, "Ugh, no. Big brother, you look so young. Can you tell me what's going on in there?" The man was finally satisfied. "Hey, inside. There are two godly monks fighting inside. It's so exciting." "Godly monks? Fighting?" Li Yu's eyes lit up when she heard that. She quickly asked, "Which two godly monks are they? What are they fighting about?" The man pouted and said, "Why do you have so many questions, little girl? I still want to see the fight. If you want to know, go and see for yourself." After that, he turned around and ignored Li Yu. Li Yu opened her mouth. Li Yu opened her mouth. If it was not for the fact that it was inappropriate for a girl to scold someone in public, she would have already yelled at the man. "Master Li, can you help me squeeze to the front to see what's going on?" Li Yu was amazed by Li Chunfeng's lightness skills when they were fighting with the hooligans in the South Alley. Li Yu believed that Li Chunfeng would be able to help her squeeze to the front in this situation. Li Chunfeng was speechless. He said, "The fight between the godly monks is just a smokescreen. What's there to see? Let's just go to the palace." Li Yu tilted her head and suddenly laughed. "Master Li, Buddhism and Taoism are at odds. As a Taoist, don't you want to see what these two godly monks are capable of? The art of war says that only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. If you don't go and see, how can you know yourself and your enemy?" Li Chunfeng was stunned. He realized that he could not refute because what Li Yu said was the truth. In fact, the conflict between Buddhism and Taoism did not happen when Buddhism came from the East. As a foreign religion, Buddhism and Taoism had the same purpose when they first arrived in China. Therefore, the relationship between the two religions was relatively harmonious. However, as Buddhism and Taoism continued to be perfected in China, the two religions gradually formed an independent religious consciousness. Subsequently, the two religions developed a strong, exclusionary ideology. Therefore, the two religions started to compete fiercely for the support of the upper class and the support of the lower class. Especially during the West Jin Dynasty, Buddhism developed very quickly and put a lot of pressure on Taoism. Now, the Tang Dynasty's ruler did not have any obvious hostility towards Buddhism and Taoism, although Lier seemed to be closer to Taoism. Taoism and Buddhism developed together. Under such circumstances, the two religions fought even harder to gain the ruler's favor. Follow behind this poor Taoist. Li Chunfeng, who was tempted by Li Yu's words, took the lead and walked in front to help Li Yu open the way. "Okay, thank you so much, Taoist Li." Li Yu quickly followed behind Li Chunfeng with a smile. Li Chunfeng seemed to be surrounded by a strong and invisible force field. Wherever he went, the crowd would make way for him. After a while, the two of them arrived at the front of the line. "Wow, Taoist Li, you're so good." Li Yu patted Li Chunfeng's arm and praised him. Although Li Chunfeng did not show it on his face, he was quite proud of himself. However, what Li Yu said next made him lose all his pride. He almost vomited blood. "Taoist Li, since you're so capable, does that mean you don't have to line up at the Academy's cafeteria? If I go to the Academy next time, I'll look for you to have a meal together." If he could swear, Li Chunfeng would be cursing right now. He had cultivated for more than 10 years and finally managed to cultivate some pure Taoist vital qi. In Li Yu's eyes, this vital qi was only used to cut in line. Who was he looking down on? However, Li Chunfeng did not argue with Li Yu. Instead, he looked at the crowd. The monk standing to the west had a dark complexion, but he was wearing a red kasaya embroidered with golden threads. He held a pure gold staff in his hand. His equipment was fully equipped, almost blinding the titanium alloy eyes of others. The monk standing to the east was about 50 or 60 years old. His eyebrows and beard were white, and his clothes were much simpler. He wore a brown monk's robe and held a fine iron staff in his hand. He stood there motionless. This was a real old monk in meditation. Isn't this Master Huikong, the abbot of Daxing Charity? Why is he here? Li Chunfeng was surprised when he saw the old monk's face. In the second year of Emperor Wen's founding emperor, Daxing City was built and the temple was moved to the new capital. It was named the National Temple. When Emperor Wen was in northern Zhou, he was the Duke of Daxing County. The temple was located in Jingshan Square. Hence, it was named after the two words Daxing and Jingshan Square. The Annals of Chang and stated that after the temple was built, its main hall was the largest in the capital. The system was the same as that of the Imperial Ancestral Temple. The founder of Daxing Charity Temple was Master Ling Song. He was a close friend of Emperor Wen of Sui, Yang Jian. At the same time, he was the Zhao Xiandu monk who was in charge of the affairs of monks and nuns. Later, Zhao Xiandu monk Meng, the successor Zhao Xiandu monk Tan Yin, and their followers all lived in the temple. In the 7th year of founding Emperor, Huiyuan, Wizong, Sengu, Baojin, Hongzuan, and Tan Yin were summoned to the capital. They were the 6 great virtues. More than 300 monks entered the temple to worship them. To the west of Vermilion Bird Avenue was Xuandu Temple. To the east was Daxing Charity Temple. Hence, Li Chunfeng had seen the abbot of Daxing Charity Temple before. Master Huikong? Then who is that monk? Li Yu didn't think that she would be able to see such an important person like Huikong just by watching the show. She couldn't help but open her small mouth with a face full of surprise. Then she pointed at the monk in the west and asked. Li Chunfeng shook his head and said, I don't know. Look, Divine Monk Du Yi is going to attack. At this moment, several people around them suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Li Yu and Li Chunfeng immediately focused their attention on the two monks. The monk in the red cassock bowed with one hand and said, Thank you for your kindness, Brother Li. Ba. It has been more than 40 years since the Tantra Buddhism was introduced to the Tang of the East, but it has been declining and declining in your hands. This has made the Buddha sad. Huikong, you can't escape the blame. Why don't you abdicate and let me take your place to promote Buddhism and manage the Daxing Shan Temple? Tantric Buddhism of India? This monk is from Tantric Buddhism of India? Li Chunfeng was shocked when he heard that. Taoistly, is Tantric Buddhism of India very powerful? What does it have to do with Master Huikong? Li was confused. Li Chunfeng nodded and said, Of course. Actually, Master Huikong is also from Tantric Buddhism of India. Daxing Charity Temple is the ancestral court of Tantric Buddhism of the 8 sects of Buddhism. It was the royal temple of the Sui Dynasty and one of the 3 major scripture translation centers in Chang. During the reign of Emperor Kaiwang, Tantric Buddhism of India came to Chang and in translated scriptures at Daxing Charity Temple. Master Huikong is Tantric Buddhism's last disciple. Oh, so this divine monk Du Yi came from India to compete with Master Huikong for the position of the abbot? Li Yu nodded and said softly. Li Chunfeng pursed his lips and did not say anything. He felt that things were not as simple as Li Yu said. Master Huikong looked at the monk in the kasaya expressionlessly and bowed with one hand. Then he said, What do you mean by decline, and what do you mean by glory? A monk should jump out of the secular world. Du Yi, you are still too stubborn. Oomph. People don't believe you, and Buddha doesn't protect you. You are not declining? Monk Du Yi snorted and said, Today I will show you what Tantra Buddhism of India is really like. Having said that, he turned to look at the people around him and said, Ba. Patrons, although the path is far away, I can still use recent events as proof. Buddha is merciful and protects all Buddhists in the world. Today, this penniless monk will use a trivial matter to let all of you understand that Buddha always protects the world. The crowd cheered when they heard that. Great! Divine Monk Du Yi is finally going to make his move. Finally, I can broaden my horizons. I heard that Divine Monk Du Yi is the reincarnation of a true Buddha. He can summon the wind and rain. His dermic powers are boundless. Really? How can it be fake? You will know if you don't believe me. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.